Are you in Brisbane and looking for Brisbane's largest range of premium aerosols? Crush City was established in 2010 to provide a great retail space and the best quality materials and equipment for every occasion. With heavy stocks of Montana cans, Iron Lac, Bez, Loop, and Molotov. To find out more, including opening times and deliveries, get at the team at crushcity.com.au or get at the team via Crush City Fame on Instagram. Or head into the shop at 423 Ipswich Road, Annerley. Crush City are proud sponsors of Beers, Beats and the Biz.
Doors closing. Please stand clear.
Media Fortress is an Australian web hosting company operating out of Melbourne, established in 2009. They offer domains, hosting, website builders, and online marketing support. If you are sick of sending your dollars overseas for a slow-loading website, check out Media Fortress. They will transfer your website free. Domains from as little as $17.50 and hosting from as low as $7.50 per month. Head to mediafortress.com.au for 100% Australian owned, domain registration and Australian hosting, custom website design and search engine optimization and marketing. That's Media Fortress, mediafortress.com.au or call them on 1300 308 488. Media Fortress are official sponsors of Beers, Beats and the Biz. Support businesses supporting us. 420 Superstore are one of Australia's largest providers of 420 cultural giftwares and paraphernalia. Their product range includes a wide variety of items, from dried herb aromatherapy devices, rolling and cutting supplies, herbal extraction devices, hydroponic grow equipment, to candy, carver and clothing. Open at their brick and mortar location at the Hooper Centre, Toowoomba, Queensland, and online at 420superstore.com.au. From seed to satisfied, 420 Superstore has everything you need. Visit 420superstore.com.au today. 420 Superstore are official sponsors of Beers, Beats and the Biz. Support businesses supporting us.
You wanna know the real deal? Here it is. You're tuned in to Beers, Beats and the Biz.
All right, we are back in effect once again. The Beers, Beats and the Biz podcast, live and direct from the Shire Studios, live under lights, courtesy of our boys Dom, Mesc. And it is a fucking jam-packed show today, man. We're talking all that kind of talk, but before we get there, last week, the legendary, the one and only DJ Chrissy, the absolute queen, and her partner Mad Hat. And man, that was just good, fun energy for whatever it's worth, man. That was just a great conversation. We just sat down and talked all that kind of talk, shamanic breath work. We got into the history. We got into all manner of things. Mad Hat kicked that shit off with a fucking freestyle, some old rap he'd written and shit. And man, I can't even think of what else we fucking spoke about. We spoke about so much shit that, yeah, it was what it was. It was fucking good times, and it's always good energy, and it's great catching up with them. Things like what we do here today do not exist without the contributions DJ Chrissy made. We should fucking state that from the outset. Someone like DJ Chrissy, who's been at this life since the mid-'80s, and we went into that for the second time, you know? So, yeah, go back, find that episode, watch it, rate it, subscribe to us on Spotify. We're trying to drive all that traffic to Spotify. So Spotify goes up on Wednesdays now. YouTube will generally go up on a Friday or, you know, a couple of days following, possibly Thursday and shit like that. So, you know, keep your eyes peeled. Beers, Beats and the Biz is out here, and I'm fucking just hearing all the noise, man. Like, we're out here. We are fucking out here, man, and we are fucking doing this. So make sure you rate, make sure you support. My man Insidious to my right here. Fucking, man, it is a fucking full house today, and I'm super excited. Once again, head over to Spotify. Make sure you rate and subscribe. Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Shouts to 420 Superstores. Shouts to, we've got some big shit in the works too, folks. Like, once again, I've told you in the past, but we've got some crazy shit coming up that we'll get to, you know, later in this year. But right today, this podcast is kind of taken off on a life of its own in recent times. As if it didn't already, it certainly has now. And one of the key proponents in bringing this new energy of Beers, Beats and the Biz is my man sitting opposite me currently. He's been in the scene for a number of years already, a young gun on the come up, has been on his come up, has been on his grind, and is just someone I'm fucking enjoying the fuck out of hanging out with, man, doing these podcasts, making it an absolute joy. Listen, boys, let's make some noise for our boy Mesc.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Syntax Junkies, like going back to No One Network, all that kind of shit, and has come on board with this podcast, filming and doing everything, like pretty much revolutionized shit. Yourself and Dom and the 420 Superstore guys, you know, like, man, we had to sit you down, brother. It was time. It was long overdue. We've had Scrub on. We've had Nerve on. So we've had people you've come up with on this podcast. It's long overdue your time, you know, and to his left. Is that your left or your right? I can't even fucking work that out. Our boy Duckett's in the spot, you know. And Duckett's just came down to join in the energy because you are doing a lot of work together. And man, we always love having Duckett's in the spot, you know. So this is what it is. But Mesc, you know, coming on board with this fucking podcast, dude, you truly have, you know, breathed new life into what we're doing here, man.
I do what I love and I love what I do, man. So man. I appreciate you having me on here, and just it feels weird to be sitting here, to be honest, like you know, the other side of the lights and everything, but it's sick to be here, you know?
I love this motherfucker's energy. Like straight up, dude. I mean,
bundle of fun.
Yeah, straight up. Every time we do this podcast, I pick these boys up and then I drop them home, and Mesc the entire time home, man, we're pumping music. He's like, fucking boom, and you are spitting that shit. Dude, before we get to all the music shit, like standing on that side of the cameras, you know, up until this point, how have you found it, man? Like, how are you, is that something you're working towards, you know, like?
In terms of,
I don't know, filming shit. Is that what you're looking at doing?
Yeah, well, I see
beyond your own music and stuff.
I see it as sort of like, you know, how everyone has their sort of plan B, I guess. You know, it's like you don't always want to be like that 50-year-old rapper, right? Yeah. But you know, if I can like be that, you know, when I'm like fucking 60, I would just be directing films and shit. So it's sort of like that secondary thing that I can sort of, you know. And at the end of the day, when you do like creative shit, it all is actually just creation at the end of the day. So people get caught up in, you know, their specific version of, you know, releasing emotion, where really like if you branch out, you be a Renaissance man and you sort of do it all, you sort of continually inspire yourself, I guess. So it's never too late to like start learning something new, you know what I mean? And in this day and age, you sort of have to be a bit of a jack of all trades to compete, you know?
Yep.
Because everyone does everything at the moment, you know, everyone's pretty decent at everything. So I guess it's just a matter of like standing out as well as being able to do that, you know. Otherwise you're falling behind in today's day and age.
Dude, I love that idea of the Renaissance man too, because that's like some of the fucking greatest identities in hip hop were Renaissance men. You know, they were fucking people that just did, they were multifaceted, whether they be a DJ or a record label owner or, you know, someone running club nights or being writers, MCs, boom, 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 going through the list. That's what the fuck it is, you know, and that's what the fuck it is to exist through this. And as you said, into older age also. You know, like, yeah, man, like just spitting is just spitting, but there are more ways to fucking do
like
shit.
I don't ever want to
this.
stop writing rhymes and expressing myself through that way because it's like, you know, I see like some of my favorite songs I was showing Dom before, like that Little Man Atmosphere track where he talks to his son and then he talks to his dad and then he talks to himself. It's like I can't relate to a lot of that track, but the way that he makes you feel and you almost can relate to it because of how dope it is. And that's coming from, you know, maybe not, you know, the most hip hop in terms of context of what is, but it's like it's the way that hip hop allows you to be able to sort of express something like that in the way it does. It's just like it's literally just poetry on a beat, right? So it's like you're combining these two things that are very powerful and sort of making them more powerful. It's just interesting, I guess, in that point of like, you know, writing into, you know, there's always going to be a dope track and a dope concept to a different point in your life. You know, it's just about being dope enough at that point to be able to express that and make a track that people are going to feel, you know? So it's like, you know, I never want to stop writing rhymes and having fun with it, I guess, because that's how I see it. You know, like when I listen to like some of the new, say like the new Eminem stuff. And it's like a lot of people talk shit about it, but it's like you can hear how much fun this dude's having. And a lot of people sort of like, they're like, oh, this is like a joke. And it's like, that's what he's doing. Like he's literally laughing as he writes this shit because it's so easy for him. He's like making these like triple entendre jokes about poo and shit. And it's like, he's literally having fun. And I think people who don't write rhymes and they judge him by what he's done and they don't, you know, express themselves in that way, they can't see that he's actually just having fun with it and making music because it's fun again for him, you know?
But 9 times out of 10, they are the people that judge. Oh, you know, it's those people that fucking judge.
But that's what the fans are for, right? That's how they keep you. They keep you on point, or they fucking, you know, they dictate what you make if you're.
But Eminem is fucking like, I mean, Jesus Christ, that motherfucker can rap like a drum machine. Like,
literally, it's like it's very like it's almost, and I think that's the funny. You sort of realize it's like, all right, he's so perfect with it, but part of the some of the dopest shit is actually the imperfections. So when you hear some super manufactured shit, you're like, it doesn't feel like hip hop to a certain extent because some of the dopest shit is a bit crusty, it's a bit raw, and it's in your face. And this new shit's like, you know, it's like, as I said, he's making jokes about poo, so it's sort of like, but Eminem's always done that. Not that Eminem hasn't always made jokes about poo.
But you like that old Infinite shit too, don't you?
Yeah,
like you go all the way back with
I reference
Eminem.
it, but I mean, I didn't fucking like bump, you know, arachnophobia like some people did, but I reference it for yeah, exactly. See, I don't even fucking know, but I know of it. I know about it, and I know the way. I didn't know the way he does it, but I know how different it is from fucking what made him actually get famous, which is what the Slim Shady shit, which is a completely different style. You know. Which is like, you know,
it was way different.
It was way different. Like you can tell he got some inspiration in those couple years where he realized, oh, okay, like, you know, I guess I even realized that, you know, nobody wants to listen to like fucking dope multis. They're way too good, you know, and like nobody actually wants to listen to that shit. Rappers do,
but they have their place.
Oh, 100%. I'm not saying, I was about to make a point, like, you know, most of the time I feel like I've sort of realized to a certain point where, you know, being a rapper who raps about rapping, you end up rapping about writing and all this rapping related stuff, and you sort of question it, but then you sort of like you don't question it because you go, well, like, there's so many people who want to do this shit. So it's like writing music, you know, that sort of they relate to there's nothing wrong with that. If that's naturally what you're creating, you know, and that's, I feel like the themes with this new music that I'm creating is like sort of that, you know, that feeling of like doing this shit for a long time and not really like giving up, I guess, is the main point, is just going with it. And, you know, the sort of everything that comes along with that, I guess. And, you know, and so many people are in the same boat as, you know, someone like me who'd been doing it for, you know, close to a decade, like trying to put your shit out there and not, you know, and you look at other people and they're sort of gaining more success, maybe because they tailored what they do to, you know, they were literally smarter than me in a way, you know what I'm saying, to a certain extent. They were smarter than me to be able to go, and music should, I'm one to agree, music should never be, you should never be like, oh, I do this and this is like my sound, because it's like, you don't owe any fucking genre anything. And I think genres are bullshit in general because it's like, it's just like this whole, I think too much shit gets fucking props just because of, it's like sounds like a genre and people are like, oh, that's what I like, so I like that. It's like coming from a, like, you know, someone who creates shit, it's like, well, no, that's sort of like, you know, it's a bit whack because it's like just you're literally like making that to sound like that, and then it's like not. It is that because it's that to people. Yeah, dude. Do you know what I'm saying?
Of course. How do you feel when you, and I imagine you are nothing but happy, but to me, you came up in that like that No One Network school. You know, you came up in that alongside the nerds and the scrubs. You know?
Basically, like, you know, we talk about the No One Network shit, but like, you know, it was only like, I was pretty much like fucking being a dickhead by the time that No One Network was like becoming a thing, you know? So it was like, you know, around that time, it was like, that's when, by that point, I had sort of already like distanced myself from those friends just because I wasn't really like being like who I was, you know, maybe a couple fucking months earlier, a year earlier, you know? I was just a bit fucking loose. So it was like, now I look back and it's like, of course those people couldn't associate with me because I wasn't like in the mind to be able to fucking help them do anything, you know what I mean? I was like fucking lost in my own world being like some fucking, you know, like a rapper that was that thought he was like the shit. But really, I hadn't done shit. You know what I mean? It's like now I can see that and be like, oh, of course, you know.
Yeah, but dude, you've been on a grind for some time.
Like, you know, nobody actually respects you for fucking writing 100 verses. At the end of the day, you know what I mean? It's like it's just spoken about. It's like you actually like this day and age, words are cheap, you know what I mean? You don't get respect for fucking writing a couple, like, you can write as many dope verses as you want, but at the end of the day, if you don't have fucking money for beats or studio time or anything like that, you're just fucking a leech, right? Because you just every cunt can write verses, you know? And even if you have the dopest verses ever, but you can't put anything into anything else, then people aren't going to associate with you because exactly what I just said, you know what I mean? Because you're not able to fucking put it, and especially when you're fucking on drugs and shit, and you know what I mean? It's like people, you're just sort of a flop at that point.
Between when you first between that time when you linked with No One and then when you first
but it was before I linked with No One that No One was No One. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it was, for a long time, it was Kyle Golly was shooting us, Syntax, you know, relating obviously Syntax Junkie's Nerve, the music videos. Kyle Golly was shooting that shit out of his own pocket for nothing. For you know for a decent amount of time before he went to Europe for a couple months, came back and had this master plan, you know, that was No One Network, I guess inspired by like the body bag media movement and shit. And Kyle realized that I guess he didn't want to, you know, just be Kyle Golly. It was smarter to have an umbrella.
Yes.
And that's where the
umbrella.
That's where the umbrella comes from.
When
And
you
respect.
met with them, and then like when you actually started penning, how far before, like how long had you been penning for?
Oh,
when-
long, like, no, not long, but like fucking, I don't know, you know, a couple years. Like, you know, Kyle Golly, the first thing he filmed was that we rapped over that, me and Spectre, we rapped over that Nas, like, Hip Hop is Dead beat, Walking Through the Drains. And we couldn't fucking, we had all these, we had these hectically wordy verses that were like heavily multi-based over that Hip Hop is Dead beat, which is like, I don't know, like 99 BPM.
course.
And at that point, we were like loading these verses in with just like stupid amounts of multis. We thought it'd be a mad idea to like do the video walking through this tunnel at like a decent pace. And at that point, we still like spat our verses in the music video. These days, I just mouth the shit because you get way more swag with it.
Yeah.
But at that point, we were still spitting it, and it was like really hard to like rap that shit while we were walking. Obviously, I'm sure everybody knows about this, but yeah, that shit's hard. But that was the first thing he did, and that was maybe, I'm gonna say 2017 or even 2016 or some shit like that. But yeah, that was I'd been writing like a year, 2, 3 before that. And then, it pretty much went from there. Then we did like the step back clip and all that kind of stuff.
What
with
was
Syntax
the year?
Junkies.
When did you guys come to Crush? You remember you used Scrub and
Yeah, that was for
that
the
one take thing?
THC
The
TV,
THC
with,
TV.
with River.
I
Yeah,
mean, that's
that
probably
was
going back fucking 5 years now.
Was
That's
that 2017? This is
I'm guessing, man.
literally so shit with dates. I think everything's in 2017 because like
I think everything's 2017.
I think that's when a lot of the shit happened. But I was on like when like it's literally like I have like a pretty like dark space from like all the Xanax that I was taking. So it's like a lot of like big lapses in memory. So I remember like, big things vaguely, and then everything else is sort of gone. But maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Like I don't have to fucking reminisce because I was so fucked up that it literally got wiped from my memory. But I do, I get, occasional like, little memories back, and it's like, sort of good things to reflect on, I guess.
I mean, you're talking about it. What happened through that period? Like, I mean, anyone that followed you on social media through that period, saw the craziness and
it
the
honestly
life you were
probably
living.
wasn't as crazy as it looked. I was just fucking doing drugs and, probably
Yeah.
not doing as much of the shit I should have been doing, you know what I mean? Which is making music and just kicking back, because I didn't need to be doing that shit.
Yeah.
It was just more like a fucking after a breakup, just me being a dickhead, basically. Just literally for no reason, pretty much, just because it was like, at that point, it was like, what else do I do? I've been doing this kind of shit, and it just escalated to a point of doing the dumbest shit I could do without sort of, I mean, people do hectic shit. Like, I'm not even, you know what I mean? It's like when I talk about this shit, I don't want to get into it because I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not proud of it, but at the same time, it was nothing hectic ever. You know what I mean? I never, you know what I mean? It's like people do crazy shit. I didn't do fuck all. I was just doing drugs. I was just doing drugs and staying up too much and all this kind of shit that comes with just being a flop. You know what I mean? So it's like at the end of the day, I'm all about the future these days.
But do you think at some point that substance abuse, that use was an extension of the creativity you were feeling at that time? Like, was it just reactionary?
That was how you lived, bro. Like I thought that was like some shit. I listened to a lot of shit that like, not going to blame music or anything because it's more just like a fucking people can. It's a style. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. Whether drugs were involved or not, I wasn't living the right lifestyle and fucking treating myself correctly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we've all been there, bro.
And then, I just fucking started doing what I should be doing, and now we're here. You know what I'm saying? That's as simple as that.
This is where we're at.
Yeah.
Well, where does this hip hop journey sort of begin for you, dude? Like, I mean, you are skilled in many facets of the art form, man, and things that have now become art form, whether it's standing behind those fucking video cameras and shit like that, or putting pen to paper, and even just your knowledge of rap music, man, astounds me. I'm just like, fuck, man, this motherfucker knows his shit.
I guess it would be like whatever I got into, I'd probably fucking research it a lot. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's that, but like the skate park, bro, is like skateboarding is that's the connection. So like, I did fucking some stupid graffiti. It's interesting, really like realizing the connection in Australia between graffiti and like rapping, because of hip hop as a whole. The connection there is massive. It's
huge.
For me, it's like skateboarding, right? So like, I've always just loved music. Always wanted to sort of be a performer and entertainer in that fashion. But at the same time, these days, I do when I get up on stage, I love that shit. But at the same time, like, that's not what inspires me the most, is like a fucking live performing to a whole bunch of people. Like, that's not what I live for. It's more about the creation of what I do, is everything, because I got the most inspired by listening to music on a bus, not watching a dude do a dope, because of all the shit that I thought was the best shit ever. When I was listening to it, when I was at that peak age of really loving the shit that you listen to, they weren't performing in Australia. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
no,
Like, I'm
no,
sure
no,
a lot of people can relate. Like the
Yeah.
dopest shit that you thought was the dopest shit when you were at that perfect age. It's like you weren't able to access that.
No,
So
never.
you sort of get, I guess that sort of cuts you off from, I mean, anything local, I guess, or really connecting with shit that you maybe should connect with, you know? You
Yeah.
just go, oh, that's the shit. And, you know, that's fine as well, is really liking, because that can be the link between what you actually do. But yeah, so the skate park is because it's like I used to fucking listen to, you know, a lot of different shit, like most people, you know, until it was like you found the right hip hop and then you're like, oh, this is the genre
is
that I
it.
like the most,
Yeah.
even though I guess it's like being like a fucking white kid from Tarragindi. It's like it's like special because it's like, you know, here and like it would have been, what was it? So it would have been, you know, because my brother got like the encore shit when I was like too young to listen to it.
Yeah.
So mum didn't let me listen to encore and shit, but I really wanted to listen to that Eminem shit.
Yeah.
But then it, you know, got into that thing where I didn't like rap because it was like, you know, I sort of liked that fucking heavy metal shit. It was like the opposite. And because I wasn't, you know, I couldn't relate to that gangster shit at all because I didn't understand it, you know. And it wasn't until I maybe heard some fucking Aaron Cooper at the skate park at Fairfield, like the maddest skater. He would bump that like AOTP and Onyx, and those were like the first two that made me go, oh, okay, this shit's like dope. And same as you're talking about, like he would just spit all the lyrics and and I would listen to him and like the energy and the intricacies in, you know, like I guess like Outer Space and Apathy, hearing those dudes on like the AOTP shit, and I guess the group vibe of and Onyx as well, that energy. I guess it sort of just like took me, and you know, seeing someone who was really into it as well, and that whole skateboarding vibe. So I started using that type of shit for like the videos and shit. Because in the same thing, I would shoot the skateboarding videos. So it was like I would take my camera to the park to shoot shit, but also, you know, you be the person with the camera, and it's just like you got something else to do. And I've always sort of been like that. Is like, it's like when you go to a spot, you don't just want to be doing one thing. I can't just be doing one thing. So it's like, you know, if I can have the camera. And I can be like, I can always fall back to getting something done while I'm fucking having a good time, you know? Because it was like I'd wasted a lot of time skating because I wasn't like a skater. My favorite shit was like rolling along the flat ground at like, you know, quite slow and just popping a mad kickflip. Like I never got that good at skating,
This
right?
cunt is a frenetic ball of energy, isn't he? Like it's just like fucking, just go, cunt, go.
I can't stop, bro. I had to say to Dom when I was at mine, I was like hitting him with the rapid fire. And I was like, dude, I can't be speaking this quick on the podcast.
No, you
so
can.
I had to
Yes, you
take
can.
myself. No, I seen it the other day. I'm like, no, I don't like that shit. I like
It's all good. There's a
I like
there's
that.
a-
The
there's a-
shortest episode ever.
I just get it all out. Yeah.
There's a 0.7. There's a 0.75 speed button. You can listen back slower. It'll be
Oh man, no, this motherfucker's a beast. And for anyone listening, like it's a true fucking, it's a thing of beauty that you are now on board with this podcast. Because like I said, I love your energy, bro.
Appreciate that, bro.
You fucking instill me with something. Like, you know, I was telling Russ, or I was telling fucking Proof, I was telling someone recently, like just car trips with you. I'm listening to Cage again, dude.
Bro, that's
Hard
what
out.
you realize is like
Hard
that's
out.
it's what I'm trying to do, and it's like I wouldn't have this energy for anybody. It's because I respect you guys and I want to
Yeah.
give you that energy. I want to bring that energy for things like this, and because I know, you know how many people I can fucking talk to Cage about who are going to actually understand, who I know straight away who's going to understand, you know, because it's like I don't even need to question it because it's like you are like a rap dude, you know what I mean? It's like so, and even Russ, it's like the fact that you hit me up about the overcast shit, and it's like, oh, okay, like there's a, it's like meeting your fucking tribe, like people who it's like no matter, you know, I can instantly go, oh, these dudes are gonna love this shit, you know what I mean? I can show you that ID and Alucard shit, or in the car I was like, bro, we haven't talked about the Cold Vein yet. Cannibal Ox. And I was like,
Exactly.
what? Like that's another one that was like big inspiration. You know how you have like these inspirations and it's like they're so inspirational for everything as a whole, but it's like they're almost too good and to themselves for you to even be able to like take anything from. In a way, you know what I'm saying? It's like to try and take anything from them intentionally, you instantly take away from yourself. But by loving them as what they are, subconsciously you use their powers.
I feel like that's what ideas like. Like that.
Yes,
got that crazy amount of skill, but like you can't really take anything from it.
Idea's got that.
insane.
It's funny because he's literally got that. Like you can tell how much of his style's influenced by how well he freestyles.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, I didn't get into idea like heaps in terms of like a lot of other artists, like listening religiously to a certain album. But I love Burn Fetish, the one idea track that I could just name. I fucking love that Burn Fetish shit. That shit's fire. That shit's fire.
Yeah. How did you come across this underground? Like, so it starts with Eminem in a way.
Nah, so I just got to give props to Spectre. So the Brain Thief, Jimmy G, James, one of my best friends, got me into this hip hop shit overall. He was writing since he was 12, and like, I remember like on the bus one day from him, he was like the older brother of a chick that was in my grade, Emily.
Yeah.
And I always knew that he spat shit, and I was like doing like joke raps at the skate park. I had a joke persona. I would do like joke freestyles, like, because I just love music. So I'd always do like fucking piss take shit. But I knew that he did actually wrote shit. And I was like one day on the bus home from school, and I like fucking gave him, he sat next to me. I gave him like an earphone, and I was just showing him some Onyx, and obviously he would have known Onyx, but it was just like showing him, this is like my shit, like this is what I like at the moment. And then it probably would have been like a year later, we had both been suspended. Oh no, expelled actually. Sorry, expelled. Yeah, the hardest cunts in the game. But, for nothing, I just wasn't wearing the right shoes, right? But
Golly.
And and then like pretty much just got into writing like some shit of my own through hearing like the level that he was at, being inspired by that. And it pretty much just went from there, bro. Like I wouldn't fucking know about all this shit that I know about if it wasn't for like the way that we used to sort of try and find new shit. And he obviously knew about a lot of the shit that I show you from doing the same shit that we were trying to do, like Under Cream, all these so basically like underground hip hop blogs that would just post albums, and you could just download all the songs for free. So that's how we found like a bulk of the shit. And we used to post to post our shit to those sites as well. I mean, I'm sure they're still running, and I'm sure they're still posting some fucking dope shit that I haven't heard before.
Was Under Cream the blog?
Under Cream was a blog. There were a bunch of other ones, but that was just the most.
Des Flight.
Yes, exactly.
I remember seeing one of my albums get posted there, and I was like, yes, I'm getting pirated by Des Flight. This is sick.
Straight up. Yeah, so all like the ID and Alucard, like that Stonecutter shit. I mean, I'm not sure how like Spectre like came across like Cage and all this kind of shit, but he was just like from a young age, he was just like, I guess, digging online whatever he could find. Whatever he probably see, like with the Cage shit, it would have been a fucking he was so into Eminem from a young age that it probably would have been a reverse dig from maybe like who is this Cage?
That's right.
Or some bar. He would have looked into a bar and found Cage through that, I'm sure. Because he's the same as me, like
that's
research kid.
Yeah, well, that's what Eminem says. What does he
bought
say?
Cage's tape, opened it, and dubbed over
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And when you're young and you're sort of trying to really figure out every bar, you're not trying to like listen to it and half know what he's talking about.
The origins of that, I don't know what the origins of that Eminem Cage thing is.
Oh well. So
like of all these
Cage,
beats, like I follow this shit, and I don't know the origins of that shit.
Cage had a tape out, like maybe a year or two before Eminem ever had anything out, right?
Yep.
So the idea, that's where that bar comes from, especially, is that Eminem saying, "Oh, I don't give a like." So basically, the idea is that Cage is the crazy white boy from New York, and then Eminem comes along maybe 2 years later, and he's like the crazy white boy as well, like the insane Slim Shady type shit. Of course, And so literally, Cage has probably found that, heard something Eminem does, and just probably flipped. Because he was an egomaniac, and you know when you're like that, and it's like you don't really like. I mean, they do come up differently, and when you hear them and you're like, oh maybe, but it's like.
And Cage comes up off the back of Third Base, so he comes up off the back of what was it, Pete Nice? No, Pete Nice. Yeah, Pete Nice from fucking Third. Was it MC Search and Pete Nice? Yeah. So I think it was Pete Nice that brought Cage around to begin with. Like he was an underground MC, and he's also that's how Cage has that early association with MF Doom when he was Zev Love X through KMD, because KMD were down with Third Base, they did the Gas Face, and then Cage somehow had some association with them. I don't know the origins of the association. Whereas Eminem's in Detroit around the same time on the grind, but no leg up. No real leg up over in Detroit. Beyond I suppose his manager. Yeah,
and I guess it just would have been an ego thing here and underground shit.
Yeah.
And but so with the themes I was talking about before for the new shit I've been making, it's funny because me and Spectre relating to all this shit, me and Spectre always used to talk about how if Eminem's career went to a similar trajectory as how Cage's went in terms of him never really blowing up completely. But having to sort of slug on that grind that he was on, before the Slim Shady LP and shit like that, like the type of twisted, dark stuff that would have come
Yeah, dude.
the years after that of him still slaving away. Like it's interesting to think about what direction his music would have went in. You know what I mean?
Dude, it's a good point.
Interesting,
that is an interesting question.
Yeah,
because Eminem was a master at like, okay, each project, it was like more marketable until he got to fucking, I guess, like, I don't know, Recovery, whereas like people are like, this isn't what we want anymore. Or Relapse, I guess a lot of people loved Relapse, and I fuck with Relapse. It's a pretty hilarious album, but it's obviously like, in terms of like, I don't know, the hip hop, you know, my favorite's Eminem Show just because of the time that hit. But obviously,
when you get to that point,
that's just my favorite.
your lead
I would say
branch,
Eminem Show too.
the
It's
lead,
just hits, man.
like the lead branch of the tree starts forking off at certain points, and you're
Different.
starting getting like.
Where do you
really,
rate Eminem? Where do you put Eminem, Duckets?
He was.
Was he an influence at any point?
Yeah,
Because he was an
tremendous.
influence on us, I would say, early. You know, when I first heard Eminem, definitely.
I can contribute pretty much. My early style was like Infinite and
Yeah.
like the Marshall Mathers. And
Yeah.
like I was just copycatting that
remember
when I
even-
first started.
I
Yeah.
remember even Ken Oath telling me that they went up to Rocking Horse and the Bad Meets Evil 12 had just come out. Bad Meets Evil, him and Royce of 5'9", and him and Trusty and another friend of ours that were in Riders and None at the time, they argued over who was buying that 12. You know,
Right,
like there
right.
was he was a definite influence.
Was
on
there
fucking things.
Infinite CDs or tapes around in Australia when it,
Dude, I could have copped the Infinite on wax.
Really?
back
Oh,
then.
man.
No shit, dude.
That'd be
I remember
nice to have,
seeing it on
wouldn't
vinyl.
because
on
when
vinyl,
I got into
Infinite.
it was like 2001, so like it
Yeah.
wasn't like it. I think all of the tape stock was limited. It all would have gone by then and stuff.
It was
but
around. It was
I know,
around.
I've never
Poor
actually
Mesc is sitting
seen
here
it.
staring at cameras too. He's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, is that
the
one?
noise,
Things are
that's-
beeping."
My
Is it all right?
The anxiety triggers.
Yeah,
straight
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Stop what you're doing.
Dom's on it.
Dom's all over
We're
it.
used to this shit. It's been a slog because it's like, you know, when you're doing this shit, you're trying to fucking, you know, make good for you guys, and it's just like the camera's like, nah, but
Oh,
and
he's
you're like,
been
all right.
killing it, eh?
But it's like, you know, you get to a certain point where like, all right, well, all we got to do is fucking switch the battery out and hit record again, and you know, we lose a couple, maybe at worst a couple minutes, but as long as we switch the battery out to a cool one, we've sorted it out. So it's like, you know, you get to a certain point where you just like accept certain things. That's
Yeah,
a big
yeah,
part of
yeah,
life for me.
yeah.
Is like,
But
you
you
know,
find workarounds.
you work around everything because it's like otherwise what you can do is sit there and fucking worry about it. It's like, no, you
Yeah.
just fix it and get along with what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
it's
Got a job to do.
acceptance is massive because it's like, you know, you get to certain points where it's like, oh, what am I going to do? I do this, and then you move along.
Yeah,
It's like,
and now
fuck,
Dom's on it by
otherwise,
himself.
what
He's
else
just
can you
said
do?
it. He's like, fucking battery. This poor cunt. He's
reckon-
stuck in between cameras and shit.
Jake, I reckon Apathy's Immortal, Eminem's Infinite album.
You like comparing like first albums or something?
Jest's Return of the Drifter,
Yeah.
and I'm just trying to think like
Oh, yeah.
what and Strut from like Strut, Lazy and Len from Toowong, like they were the ones I was able to find in like 03, 04 on Winamax
Yeah.
on like the download seeding thing. So
Yeah.
like
What?
Yeah.
that was like that would be like the basis of my early. That was like the gumbo pot of my early style. And
Yeah, okay, yeah.
definitely
yeah.
Eminem was like
Yeah.
a.
Yeah, no, he fucking played a role, for sure. For sure.
But I hated his commercial stuff, the stuff that everyone. I mean, like ironically, the stuff that I
Like the Without Me's and that.
yeah, like you know, on the Slim Shady LP, the My Name
But the way
Is
he
was
raps.
the,
His early
Eminem's
commercial
a
shit.
master of like back in
Yeah.
those days writing a commercial hit, like because you listen to it these days and it's like you hear the commercial ones, like the ones that he's written to be like poppin', and it's like they hit harder now because it's like no popular music sounds like this, but
Yeah.
it's still dope rap that
It's
hits,
dope,
but
dude.
it's written in a certain way that it's like for that time it was like everybody could get around
Yeah,
it.
it wasn't
There's a-
half-assed
cares
either.
about-
Like
no,
he was
exactly.
still
That's- and
putting
it was
his
like,
skill
you know,
into it.
I guess then you go like ass like that. Like that's him being
Yeah.
half-assed. Like that's what. Is this true that maybe you guys heard the same thing? I always tell people this. I'm pretty sure I read it in the fucking book or some shit. But it's like Encore. He had a whole album or something like that, and then it was leaked or something, and then it was remade in like 2 weeks, and that's why Encore is like pretty much like a joke.
True.
And a lot of
Okay.
like the because that was right before like he
Makes
fully
sense.
like became
Yeah,
retarded, right? And
yeah,
then
yeah.
died and then made Relapse, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like they're pretty sure that's why like Encore was just sort of like what Encore was, which
Yeah.
was sort of, and then, you know, but no hate on Encore. I mean, there's some tracks there, but it's
But think
definitely
about like fucking forgot about Dre. nowadays everybody want to talk like the like, it's just like, man, who would rap on that beat like that? I don't know. Like when I heard that, I was like, holy fuck. And even the last 4 bar, like was it the last 4 or last 8 on there? And he's like, chicka chicka slim shady, 100 twin babies in a Mercedes Benz with the windows up and the
he always
up to the mid.
it was just like double time shit.
Fuck, bro.
The way he did double time was like totally different to how anyone else has ever done it.
Yeah, he killed
What's
that
funny
shit,
is
man.
on his early stuff, like on like the, is it Crackers and Cheese? Like it was like before Infinite, there was like some really like, there's like some mid-90s sounding sort of stuff.
Oh well, he did some mid. Do you ever hear?
And it was still as mathematically like on like I feel like and with those other artists like Strut and them like Jest like the other person.
Can we smoke? Fucking sick.
They are all mathematical.
Yeah,
I think like you know what you were saying with the songwriting capacity that he has. It's like he was able to do the commercial stuff, but I think a lot of the fans he held onto a lot of like the lyric favorable fans because he
never slacked. He never just like wrote a verse half-assed because it was a commercial hit. He would like play off the fact that he was writing a commercial hit and write punchlines about that. And I think that's like the biggest part about it. One of my favorite Eminem tracks I always think of, my favorite verses just randomly is, you know that it's one of those weird ones that people usually don't know, is the collab with the Mad Rapper, where he talks about like talks about fucking I can't recite the bars right now, but
you recite them, I remember them.
Yeah, it's like talking about how he
which one?
With Mad Rapper
called Jay-Z, something over Dre's beats, some shit like that, and it's just like the energy on that shit, and it's just one of those little gems, you know what I mean? That I like to.
I got one for you. Old World was it Old World Disorder? I think it was called 365. And he's fucking. They're telling me it should change.
Man of the day, 365 a year.
Yeah, I'm still the same lame asshole with a different name. Who came late to the last asshole. Like, yeah, dude, that shit.
They say you're spaced the fuck out like George Lucas when your puke is turning to yellow and orange mucus.
That shit.
So when I grip the mic and
I know those
motherfuckers tell me to stop the violence, start a fire, and block the hydrants. I'm just a mean person. You never seen worsen. So when Slim gets this M16 bursting, you getting slim backwards with every word of obscene cursing on the B side of my first single with the clean version. Like that, man, dude, that shit is nuts, bro. That blew my mind when I was trying to write raps. Like, I'm 21 trying to write raps, man. Like, that shit fucking, you know, like, so suck my dick while I take a shit and do this crossword puzzle. You know, like that sort of shit. Like, that shit was fucking bananas, dude. He did so many great underground joints. High and mighty Mesc.
But
you
like,
know,
there's a lot of. I feel like that's why that stuff's timeless, because it's like if you're going into the realms of like making like word heavy, I don't know, like lyric heavy stuff, then like that's part of the boot camp. Like all of this, anyone who does that stuff is part of like it's kind of like, well, oh, you want to do that stuff? Oh, check
what's already been done
Price
before.
Or anyone like
respect the elders, basically, because it's like at the end of the day,
well,
like
Nas did it first. AZ was doing it. You know, I mean, Redman was lyrical. Big L.
I'm talking about like multi-syllables and
like
shit.
syllable, you know, like
Kane.
did you see, Big Daddy Kane. Come on,
like really, like in my opinion, like you can't really, in my pigeonhole, you can't really go, like I guess. I'm not 100% sure on my dates, but like I guess him and Rakim in terms of, but you know, people say that, but it's like I listen to the old shit and it's like 100% Rakim, but it's like for what my style, it's like my style would have originated from Kane and I guess then Cool G rap. Because it's like that sort of end, you know, start and end perfectly multi-syllable. Like Rakim was sort of like on another level of experimentation while still being fairly like on point with it for that time. But then Kane is like, you know, you hear his shit is still hitting to this day.
It's hitting.
Because it's well written. And it's like, even though it's like, you know, simple,
he could
it's
write
like
a single.
still,
he could write something melodic.
But how he performs his live.
He's a performer.
Straight up, dude.
Even if you got the mic, it sounds good.
Exactly, dude. You know, you see him do that shit, like fuck me. But you also got to know that, like the era that Rakim comes out of. He comes out of like fucking Run DMC and that old school.
That's what I mean. It's like when you compare it.
In with this, it's just
when you compare it, it's like a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's kind of like Eminem coming out.
It's probably like, you know, it's probably like dudes taking cues from music that isn't the music that they're releasing.
That's what
I reckon. That's why I reckon
you find the patterns and schemes from stuff that isn't you know what everybody else is doing.
I think Eminem got his early stripes from the Hellbound track because
what song?
the track with IQ or Scam and Master Ace?
I don't even know that I've heard it.
He definitely cites Ace as a big influence, and you can hear it. I was listening, bumming
on
at
that
Ace track the other day.
On that track, without like when I heard that first, I didn't know who Master Ace was, admittedly.
Really?
And
Yeah.
when you hear it, like when he's like, "I'll puke, eat it, and freak you, battle. I'm too weak to speak
I
to."
know that verse.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
any verse after that, you're like, "Oh man, I just want to go back and listen to that first."
fair,
It's like to have that capacity on a track with like a legend like Ace
Like
is
Ace,
like,
yeah.
I think that would have put a flag in the ground earlier, early
yeah.
on from
Fuck, what was that? I never heard that.
Hellbound.
Because there was 5-star generals as well.
It was all around that same time,
Quest
yeah.
the Mad Lad and Shabam Sadiq. That's right. That's who that was. But Mesc, back to your journey, bro. You know, that discovery of that music and
It's all about like
It's all,
fucking
you know,
being
all
like
relative.
that being original and that's like listening to some shit that nobody that your age even like knows. You know what I mean? It comes from that a bit, but then you know when you do that, you end up when you're like that, you end up finding some shit. Because I guess that's my personality as well. It's like just weird shit, you know what I mean? But like weirdly cool shit that makes you go, this is dope.
Yeah.
Even though it's like totally left field, it's like nah, it sounds cool.
yeah.
I guess that's where it comes from. Is like. Just trying to find some shit that nobody else knows, and then you listen to it and you're like, oh, this is actually what I like. Like, this is actually, even though I can't maybe relate to it, it's like the energy, it's like something else, you know?
Yeah,
and that's sort of like movies for the blind and
Yeah.
I guess a lot of like Jam Baxter's stuff when I was younger, like that Rinse Out Friday, Spack Out Monday project is primo.
So you introduced me to this shit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Man, I was unaware of Jam Baxter or any of that shit, man. Like, you up on that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Fuck me, dude.
I got onto them like before they blew up. Sort of
Yeah,
thing.
I was just like, what the fuck?
Well, when Baxter was still on fucking High Focus and shit before.
Yeah, so I was aware of
Before
High
Ocean
Focus.
Wisdom.
I heard certain things, but yeah, just hadn't paid enough attention. Like that's just that search.
Yeah.
You're just coming up on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you like.
Amazing.
I mean, if you like Jest, you'll like Baxter because there's a big influence there. But he definitely takes it into his own realm, And this dude's like, he's a smart guy, you know what I'm saying? But he talks about some weird psychedelic shit. So it's a combo that's like, and a lot of my favorite earlier shit. He was big on like the apocalyptic imagery, I guess, very subtly. Like it's not the genre or the theme of all his music, but like the way he would touch on those elements was a big thing for me. And I guess the war, I guess being in a generation that hasn't experienced war, I guess it becomes like a big part of the music in a way because I guess you're sort of like waiting for the next one. You know what I'm saying? In a way, like you're like, you're sort of. But I guess wars aren't the same as what they used to be. They're social. They're social these days.
Did he drop just after Rhyme Asylum or?
You talk about Baxter?
Yeah.
Oh, so what? Rhyme Asylum was like their albums like 2011, 2012, right?
Yeah.
Baxter had a project in 2012, so it was sort of like a similar time period.
Well, I
but
think that
obviously
Contact Play shit was before that,
before,
wasn't it?
bro.
Yeah.
I can't. So I haven't mentioned Contact Play. So that as so I guess even as along with the Rinse Out Friday, Spack Out Monday, the big Baxter project, there was Contact Play, Champion, Fraff, along with Movies for the Blind, and that shit was like a massive inspiration to me just because of the group vibe. There was 5 MCs. They were all pretty much like. Baxter was always my favorite, but you'd never. It was one of them group vibes where you pretty much like every verse. Like every verse just is like fun or it works. They all work together. You know what I mean? So within a song, you're never like, oh, this dude just fucking sort of makes it not skippable, but makes you want to,
It's
go
like
to the
when I heard
next
the
track.
When I heard the Future Is Now, dude, it was just like, man, all those 4 just somehow came together. But then when I got Sabak's solo album, it was just like, it was kind of like, oh,
There was no Mr. Hyde.
Nah, dude, like I even go back, like I got Eclipse's record, man. Like Eclipse has a record that came out with all the fucking remixes that he did back in the 90s for Wild Pitch and shit like that. And but like, man, that unit as a collective just somehow fucking meshed. I get that, 100%, dude. 100%.
It's funny on that when you mentioned that, like the Future Is Now, same with like Q Unique's album and all that.
Yeah.
The posse cuts on those tracks, on those albums were always the craziest.
Dude, the posse cut beat nuts and problems and all that sort of shit. The fucking din 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 with the beat on the beat nuts beat, man. What is it?
Ganassi Artie's
Is that-
Brigade.
Suicide Bomb, fucking all that shit.
Yeah.
Was that-
Ganassi Artie
Ill
Brigade, exactly.
Bill's dope as fuck. Like I'll say that. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
love Dom Fiction, but like
Yeah.
the time
same
of his
thing. Like, I
life,
give
communist with
He was always my
Capitalist with
favorite out of
communist
that
wife,
group.
yeah, bro.
Dude.
Great CD, like Bill is like, you know, my uncle
What's
shoots
wrong
heroin.
with Bill? Like amazing solo album.
Bro, yeah.
And
Amazing
any
necro beats.
any guest appearance he
3
did
in
through
the
that
brain.
era. Any
This is
guest
our
spot,
life,
man.
like the only fucking
Our
track.
life, man.
One of my
Yayo with the
favourites.
beat nuts.
It's
like,
dope to see him
fucking-
still
That was an
active.
early
It's dope to
joint.
see still Ill Bill's still active as well.
Oh, bro,
Yeah,
he goes hard.
Never more. Never been more active. Than
And
he is
that
today.
him and Gore-Tex, Lord Goat have.
Yeah, they're doing their thing. That's right. Is that all good? That light just fucking went. Real sweet.
Is
Yeah, we'll
is
be right. Fuck it. Just keep rolling. The blue light. That's all part of the fucking. It's all part of the texture. But so you're listening to this music, dude, and you start putting pen to paper. You're like, fuck.
Yeah, because Spectre was already headed shit, like
Yeah.
he already had shit. So I had just left high school at that point. It's 2013, and I went to TAFE, graphic design, and I just like spent all my classes filling up books and shit with rhymes. So it's like, you know, you realize like, oh, when you're trying to do something else, it's really fun to like do something else.
Yeah.
You know, like you know, you're in class learning about this shit, and you're just like, no, I'm just gonna like pen this weird, crazy scheme about some dumb shit.
Yeah.
You know, trying to be mad lyrical. But you know, it was just I knew at that point it was like all I needed to do was like fill up books because it was like you don't just write something and then you're like, yeah, I'm gonna record a song. You just
just gotta keep writing.
I just
Write
realized it
and
was
write.
like a big like stage of practice.
Yeah.
So I really like committed to that, and that's what it's been like for the last couple of years. And now it's sort of I'm at the point where it's like I don't even write shit unless I'm making a song. You know what I mean? The lyrics just come from the song. You know what I mean? The
beat dictates
the beat. Yeah. So especially now that I'm producing a little bit, it's just. It's like as soon as I've done like the loop of a beat, it's like I already know the chorus. You know, I've already got the first bar ready to spit. And I guess that's the difference. For a long time, you know, just writing poetry. You know, I'd have a bar and I'd be like, because it's like, you know, when you have a certain style of rhyming, you can sort of write something to nothing and you know it's going to fit on any tempo because you're writing a bar. You're writing it 4x4 and it's, you know, you're either going to have to spit it a bit slower, a bit faster. But I think that's the problem is you're never really writing for the song. You're never crafting that song, you know, in terms of sound, you know, the exact timing, the way the beat switches, the concept, the way the way the sounds of the samples dictate what the sound
where the space is in the beat,
the spaces of the beat, all these things that when you start making a bunch of music and you start, you know, see, with the last project, thank you very much. It was a lot of that. It was fitting this older verses, a couple of months old, 2 beats that maybe they weren't written for. But there was an artistry to that as well of you know, maybe spitting these verses differently to how they were written, because almost not even remembering exactly how they were written. Maybe adding some melody to fit the beats and just giving them a new life, you know, rather than like, you know, treating them as something old or trying to like do them how I thought of them first. It's like, no, these are become new things because it's like you get you know, when you leave a verse for a couple months and then you come back to it, you just appreciate it a lot more. And a lot of people are sort of the opposite. They keep moving through. They write new. They got to get the new. But really, if you're at a certain level, you can go back a couple months and look at your shit and go, oh, I know what I was talking about here. This is a song already.
Dude, in a lot of cases, you can go back a couple of years and just go, fuck, man, that verse could still fit today.
Yes.
And the public hasn't heard that verse. It's only old to you.
And you think
know?
about it.
I did that 100 times,
But
man.
the best thing you can do is
100
deliver
times.
it with the new energy.
New energy.
And you go, okay, this is worth something. These words are worth something.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be if they're never rapped or if you don't give them the energy that they deserve.
That's right.
And I feel like that's a big thing in hip hop. It's like the energy, the tone of your voice. It's like you think about the most popular MCs. It's always a dude with a completely different delivery to every other dude who's at that point. And so it's like it's a massive thing, and not just being original, but also just first word, boom. Okay, this dude's serious. Like he's not just fucking reciting some verse. He's like he's given this everything. He's given it his heart, and you know, people are concerned about like authenticity and shit. But it's like there's a certain point where, you know, when I'm shooting shit on the camera, it's like you lose 50% of the energy you capture because you're watching people that are, you know, you're in the room filming, you're like, this looks crazy, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Loses a certain, it loses the energy. So you almost have to put a bit extra in so it comes across the same. And I feel like it's the same with art, with music. It's like it's an art form. It's not like a documentary of your day or how exactly how you are. It's like a, you know, at the end of the day, we're like sort of like characters. People need a bit of that character to instantly go, oh, this guy's like rapping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's massive.
Fuck, dude, that's some fucking dude. That is some good shit. Because that's right. You know, like when you're filming a video or something like that, and it's like, man, we just got that take, and then you watch it back, and it's kind of like, yeah, you got that take. You probably got the best take, but the whole energy in that take, maybe it's not all there.
Maybe
Like it's not all there. You know, and I think that's what you do with these cameras, dude. Like, you know, like when I say you've kind of revolutionized what we do here, you bring so much of your own energy, like that, your energeticness, you know, like or energy. Like
he revived my creativity. You revived my
Bro.
creativity with music, man.
Yeah.
'Cause it was like I was a little bit like I was after doing a number of clips. I was a little bit like, nah.
who are you
it's
using
not-
for your all the wide weird clips? Who was that?
At the beginning, it was Kyle Golly,
Oh, you
my
did
friend
use-
Vrajadam.
Yeah.
Upon my recommendation with Kyle A.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and because I met you guys for the very first
Yeah,
time
yeah.
at the Nelson Dialect Mas Volkov.
Oh, in the alley.
Yeah, in the
Yeah,
alley,
the
and that
alley
was like the
there,
first
yeah.
time I'd seen. Like I was chilling up on the step, and I was
Yeah.
like, and there was a dude with a camera moving up the steps, and I was sort of like vibing and stuff. I think. Like you were on another planet that
Bro, I was
night. You were,
lost.
I was lost.
And,
I remember that night.
but like it was dope seeing such an organized collective of people who all had bars, you know. Like
Well, you appeared to be that out the gate, man. Like I've said to you in the
Straight
past,
up.
when the first time I saw you guys live was supporting Checkmate at the Nunda
Nunda Belly, yeah,
Nunda
yeah,
Belly
Prince of
joint.
Wales, yeah.
You know, and we're probably going back 8-9 years now.
Bro, no. So this is the same thing. I'm going to say 2017.
27. Nah,
2017.
Fuck no.
Has to be. Can't,
Really?
Unless it's 20. Bro, that's the thing. it's like-
2017.
Bro,
Really has to be
because it's like
justification.
with me, it's like all right. So I started actually writing in 2013. So it's like to put myself doing
So it's not
anything
that far
too
away.
early, it feels weird. But maybe we were doing maybe we hit up New Globe in 2015.
Because I
You know
thought
what
that
I mean?
was Checkmate's. Remember Checkmate did the 2 12s and then he put them out as one release. I can't remember what it was called. Yin and Yang.
Yes, it was the
He was
yin and
launching
yang.
Yin
It
and
was
Yang.
Yin and Yang, yeah.
So whatever that was. Yeah, whenever
Yeah.
that was.
like I seen them
fuck
I seen
them,
them
bro.
at Little J's, right? And then
Yeah.
like there was a clip with
Bro, they
Golly.
reminded me of 750. When I saw Syntax Junkies, I was like, man, who the fuck are these motherfuckers?
Yeah.
Fuck off,
When-
fuck off.
When Yin and Yang came
It
out.
was funny because like I hit up Nerve, like I wanted to find out if he was bringing a turntable for Brent,
Mm.
and he's like, "Oh, bro, no." He's like, "I don't use turntables," and I was like, "Oh." He was rocking off that little like the
The
404.
the SB
404.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, arr."
Fair. Like it's
That
just
thing
that
is
easy,
basically a
right?
turntable in a box.
Literally
Man.
just boom, boom, boom,
But
boom.
with Wired Weird though, when I linked with you to do
fuck, you're not wrong. 2017.
Yeah, bro.
Everything's
2017.
2017.
Everything happened in 2017, trust me, and then everything fell apart in 2018.
longer ago to me.
Yeah, it's weird,
Yeah,
eh?
when we did Normal, that video clip,
That was
like
the first.
we teed it up like off maybe like an hour and a half's notice or something.
Yeah.
He came in, met me in the morning near Govinda's in the city, and like, but it was like 25 minutes maybe.
Something like that was pretty quick, yeah.
We went around one side, we went around the other side,
Yeah.
you know, and then like he sort of just showed me what he pieced together, and it's just
Video done.
it was like whoa,
Yeah.
but not just like video done, like he got like this ability like just capture the mood right of like
Yeah.
like without trying to like not trying to like piss in your pocket or anything like that, but it's like it's just how it is. It's like just the knack of like being able to capture, I guess, the essence of the song, and
Yeah,
and, I-
dude.
and
Yeah.
coming from an MC, like a lyricist who cares so much about the song itself.
course,
I feel
yeah.
like that would have a lot to do with like
Yeah.
That's why I like
flowers,
mixing my own
flowers.
lyric. That's why I like recording at home and mixing my own audio because it's
Yeah.
that same thing. It's like I've never been the type to like go to a studio and pay someone, even though it's going to sound 10 times better with everything that they can do, the analog setup and everything like that. But it's like I just wanted to learn it for myself. I wanted to mix my own shit. I wanted to record myself because it's like that's part of it these
Yeah,
days.
dude.
It's like it's
Yeah.
not just like and then you just do everything. That's what I've always wanted to do, just do everything. And it's like maybe to my detriment points, but like who thinks about that anyway?
Yeah.
You
It
just
just
do what
starts
you
slower.
you just do
It'll-
It just starts slow, exactly. And then, in 5 years, it'll be like everything's fucking
way easier.
come together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how does that collective form? Syntax Junkies.
Syntax Junkies,
Yeah, how
bro.
do you
So
come
Syntax
together?
Error, that's me, Spectre, or Shadow the Brain Thief at the time, and Estranged, or can't remember his name at the time, but Jimmy Boyle. Shout out Jimmy Boyle. We were in Syntax Error, 2015 or so. We like released something probably on Bandcamp, and we made like shitty physicals with the jewels, and we printed out our own shit and made the demo. Had like 11 tracks or so. We recorded that on like one of them AKG dynamic mics in my mate's room. He mixed all. That was 2015. That was Syntax era. Our mate Izzy, who was Jolly Rotten, knew Toby and CI, and they were Thought Junkies. And eventually, you know, didn't take long. We were over.
So they were Thought Junkies.
They were Thought Junkies, yeah. So them two.
We've probably heard this story before.
Yeah,
from them.
so literally,
that's
yeah.
crazy.
And so CI are Blind at the time, and then eventually Joe Crooked. They, you know, he was mainly a producer. Nerve produced and made the beats. We heard their shit on SoundCloud through Isaiah, and it wasn't long. And then we were over at Toby's house trying to put some shit together, and eventually we started getting, you know, because we were sort of half getting shows of Syntax era, so we just said, well, we'll just be Syntax Junkies, have Nerve and whoever, like Izzy if he was there as well, and we'd rock the whole set with 4 people and just shout "fuck off" at the crowd.
Get the
fuck up.
Like the household hangouts at that time. What was the vibe like? Because I know from like
honestly,
pure
it was
product,
like
it was hella competitive.
So me and Spectre, obviously being like, you know, it was me and Spectre. We were like, you know, met Toby in the past couple months. It wasn't like some people think like we go way back and now it's like this big split where it's like, nah, Toby was his own person. And he was like very switched on. We come from the dirty south side, taking drugs and all this stupid shit, wasting our time doing all these different things, where Toby was always switched on, going to uni for
He was a clever dude.
Quantum physics and shit,
exactly,
proper getting his school in. And we were just fucking
always
around.
going to uni. Like the fact he was always
OP1 student.
Yeah,
I mean, we had him on the
straight
podcast and he talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Smart dude.
I think me and Spectre were just like, we would just fucking rip on him, mate. Like just out of the blue, just because that's how we were. Like Spectre was heaps like that, and then I was pretty playful, and then sort of brought that from him as well. Like the whole, you know, you just rip on your mates and you just fucking take the piss out of them. And so it was like, you know, Toby couldn't really get away with much without us fucking taking the piss out of something that he did. You know what I mean? That was, you know, it was everyone. It was we're all trying to do it to each other. But I think me and James were a bit like harsher just because we were just fucked up.
It like that.
We just fucked
Were
up.
you battling at that time as well?
That was around that time. I can't tell you the dates of that, but yeah, I did like 3 Real Talk battles.
Oh, for real?
Go
Yeah.
check them out there.
Pretty funny, yeah. So I won the first one against shout out Briz1, and then I lost the second 2 due to unforeseen circumstances.
Unforeseen circumstances.
But they like. I don't,
But they
I don't think
remembered.
you lost him.
No, I didn't lose them in
spirit.
spirit. That's the thing. Still winning, baby.
Dude, I've got a question just randomly, because at a point I sort of saw you, Nerve, and Scrub as the collective. How did Scrub fit into the
Bro, so I was speaking to Scrub when he was still living in Muswellbrook. We were doing like Skypes every week and shit, just because I found him somehow on Facebook, some shit like that. He was popping. He was doing some dope shit. Like this Cotton Wool track he did. He did part 1 and part 2. It was about a breakup. Still shout out to Scrub for those tracks, because they're like still some of my favorite Scrub tracks that maybe a lot of people haven't even heard to this day. Some of the craziest shit, the way he puts those together, the writing. And I just heard a bunch of his stuff and we were just talking. And eventually his brother was living in Brisbane, and so eventually it just made sense for him to leave Muswellbrook and live in Queensland. As I said, you know, I was good mates with him, but eventually I started doing all this dumb shit. So it was like, you know, Nerve was sort of the dude. So Scrub sort of, you know, bonded with Nerve, obviously, because they were both switched on at that point. So they were doing their thing, and
a little bit more focused.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for real. So that collective of the Syntax Junkies, did you ever, like, was it ever... Like, I mean, fuck, dude, you put out, like, what was it, double record or something? 21 fucking songs?
Yeah,
or some
so we
shit?
put out a 22, 21 track
It was
LP.
huge, eh?
Yeah. Definitely a mistake, maybe. But at the time, it was like what we wanted to do. Like, we had 4 people, so the tracks were coming along hectic. Every track sounded dope.
Yeah.
And, you know, so we wanted to, you know, make a big project, and that was what we did. And then, you know, even before that, it was sort of like we knew the group was sort of deaded.
Temporary,
you know?
or...
Well, just deaded.
Deaded? It was deaded by the time...
Yeah, just because of, like, the, you know, when you got 4 people, and at that point, it was like, shit was just hectic, you know what I'm saying? You know.
Who were you listening to? Like, were you listening to like in as
So
far as Australian
Nerve,
stuff?
the word nerve comes from Vital Nerve on Company Flow's.
Wow.
So that's where that comes from, and also Blind obviously is Blind after the track after Vital Nerve Blind. So that's where those 2 names come from. So Nerve is named after a Company Flow track.
Shit.
Fun
really?
fact. Yeah.
Fuck.
So Nerve's like got like a massive LP influence early on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
just
you
in
spoke
terms of
about that on the podcast.
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
that experimental stuff. But in
But
terms
like
of what
us-
we were listening to as a collective.
No, like as far as like Australian, like what Australian not that it really like
What Australian stuff
matters.
did we fuck with at that time?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Bro,
like, were you
some of my
bumping like
favorite
750 or,
Australian
like-
stuff. Some of my favorite Australian stuff back then that I rattle off. You guys spoke about like Damo declassified files. I thought when I first found that declassified file shit,
Damo's a
I
beast.
thought that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Really big fan of like a couple Maggot Mouth tracks.
Yeah.
Never would admit it. And
Animal Instinct's sick, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
that dude's sick. I love Retainer.
Wow.
When
Yeah,
Retainer
yeah,
made
yeah.
that resurgence, but before that, I really loved the Hedgeburners album he did with Baylor.
With Baylor.
Yeah,
dude.
like I loved the vibe of some of those tracks, man. Big influence
Yeah.
for me early on, like hearing that shit and going, oh, this dope that these dudes are from Australia. You know, I wasn't big into graffiti, but it's that same thing I was talking about before when, you know, when the music's dope, you don't need to relate to
Yeah.
it that much to be able to go, oh, because the best part about it is that it gives you that feeling without you having to fucking know that.
Yeah, of course.
That's
yeah.
why that's how dope it is. You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
So definitely Hedgeburners. Those are the first three that come to mind. Fuck, I see. It was like I was so oblivious to a lot of the shit that was, you know, had been around.
Right.
So it was like very specifically weird stuff. Like
Yeah,
what
the
else?
shit you discovered, dude, was unique
Yeah,
to
it's
you.
literally like
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because like that ultimately like influences like in the gumbo part of all your styles and stuff. So it's like it's cool to like to hear this, like, you know.
And it's how you also find your voice. So you find a voice that resonates with you in order to kind of find your own voice. You know, like it's
Well, that was big when I first heard, like, I guess Cage and Baxter, like my biggest influences, because it was like, you know, realizing that you don't have to be like a gangster to rap. That's as simple as it is. But you know, I mean, Cage is pretty gangster, but overall, it was like the way he was using his words was creative, and it wasn't like you would hear the way he said it rather than how obscene he was and what he said. It was the way he said it, and that was the biggest influence to me. It was like, all right, so this shit isn't all about your story and blah, blah, blah. It's just words. So if you can be creative with your words, say some cool shit, doesn't really matter how true it is.
That's the game of it all.
Doesn't matter how
it's
true it
wordplay.
is. That's what a lot of people get wrong. It's like, to be real, you don't have to be telling true stories. It's like...
Well, it depends on how you say it again. If you're saying it like I really fucking
Yeah,
did
well,
that.
there's that as well. There's that as well. Like, I'm the hardest cunt in the game. Get punched in the face. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, if you're like actually saying that shit, then maybe, you know, it's like, looks like a joke,
Well, it
obviously.
depends what school of rap
if
you're
there's
from.
like an
you know?
inkling of embellishment, then I think.
But see, if
that's
you're
what
from the
matters.
Mob Deep school of rap, well, then, you
Yeah.
know, like that's what that was, you know, and that was very much an image and it was very much the role they played, you know, like, but if you got into Cage, I mean, you know, what we were saying before, rip your head out like corn rolls, put him by Blaine Jones. I mean, you know, that's, you know, there's just some fucking crazy
It's
words.
funny
like
to
that,
think, like,
you know?
you ever think, like, Alfred Hitchcock was like, man, I got to keep this on the low. Like,
Dude, you know, for real.
they're going to think I'm like, it's actually me.
That's a good point, though. It's a good point. But listen, Duckett said something fucking earlier, and I think we'll just build like the rest of the comment because there's a lot more history to get through with you. But a top 5 Cage. I mean, with you, Duckets, we did top 5 Run DMC. Everyone around this table could probably contribute a favorite Cage joint. I think Russ, like
Agent Orange is there for sure.
That's just the first one that hits, though, right?
And
Like,
just like a lot
definitely.
of the necro shit he rapped on, I just love it.
right,
Radiohead, Agent Orange.
Yeah,
I like
Radiohead's up
Good
there.
Morning.
Yeah.
Bro, Good Morning off Hell's Winter, the first track of Hell's Winter, that shit's banging. See, with me, with Cage, it's like, there's a couple different
And shouts to Fourth
avenues.
Degree. Shouts to Fourth Degree because he's
Word.
the one who like early on put me on to
schools you
Cage.
on the
Yeah.
Cage.
Yeah,
Yeah, dope. Cage has got that thing where it's like, well, we got Movies to the Blind, which is like, you know, one of the best like debut projects there is, in my opinion. Like in terms of, you know, a rapper doesn't have a album and then he's got an album. It's like that's one of the best. And then, you know, he's got the League Bros, he's got Smut Peddlers, and then he's got Nighthawks.
True.
And it's like Nighthawks is like, for me, it's like I haven't listened to it enough. Or as much as, you know, Waterworld and Porn Again.
Yeah.
But there's still some tracks that I could name off it that are like stand out for me, you know what I'm saying?
I
But
think
the
Anti-Hero of Smud Peddlers is fucking sick.
Anti-Heroes is crazy, and that's we used to bang Smut Peddlers and Cage.
We use that underneath.
That's the.
But the funny
beat.
thing is, Cage isn't even on that song. That's copyright and Mr. Elon.
Yeah, that's right.
Cage isn't even on it. Yeah. I would say in-outs off the first High and Mighty record too.
Yeah,
like in terms of Smut Peddlers and whatever. I know it's not Cage
Yeah.
necessarily, but I love that when he said I can't even think. I love the beat, the production, just the fucking vibe of that song. I loved in-outs when I heard in-outs. Oh, you got him. You got him. I mean, you've been reminding me of him. What's the fucking one we listened to in the car the other week?
What Champagne versus Burnt versus
there's
Champagne?
that Champagne versus Burnt. Now there was one off the Weatherproof EP.
Oh, bro,
like,
there's
I've been going back to it.
There's Fresh Out the Morgue, Summer in Hell, Weather People.
You'll fucking say it. It could be Weather People. No, it's not Weather People.
That was one we were talking about, but
Cage. Fuck.
Do you reckon did that because he's got like a really distinct voice, and so do you, like with yours, like,
big influence on the voice thing, right. Coming across like that and sort of coming out like that and having that sort of crazy tone, but also sort of a controlled. Definitely inspired me on the delivery front coming out. You know what I mean? Like when you think of any Cage bars, like, you know, the shit we were delivering all before, the way he comes in with the dissections, like that shit's like a toned down version of that, and you know, coming.
Didn't your name come from a Cage song?
Yeah, exactly. So I was telling Jake about this. It would have come from Agent Orange, right?
Fresh Out the Morgue, maybe.
Fresh Out the Morgue.
Fresh Out the Morgue, yeah.
Dip Newports in a corpse rolling. No, this ain't a bottle of Stolly. I'm higher than Jeff Spicoli.
That's the one, dude. Yeah, Fresh Out the Morgue.
Like the goalie, no need to call fans.
Dude, like
Cage got bars.
Bro, I got these joints on wax, and I'm like, man, I've forgotten this shit. You know, like I was like, I haven't put these records on in ages, and you've just got me fucking just ripping them back out, man. I'm loving this shit. Like, in that that Weatherproof EP is just crazy.
It's just back to back, and even that too much remix. That shit's dope when that comes on. It's always like a good because I just heard that track so many times with the original beat. So when you hear it with like blue collar to corporate, bless the unfortunate, it's like don't. It's like this is sick.
And seeing him live was an experience.
How was that, man? Because I didn't go see it. That was at the zoo.
It was like Mr. Liff and Cage,
and it was in that period where Cage went that kind of everyone looked.
He was kicking back.
He went that emo route.
Yeah,
that's
but
the way
it was
we
probably
look
like
at
the
it,
best time you could meet Cage, or you could see him live because it's like, all right, this dude's going to probably be pretty professional about it.
It was so funny, man, because like he went on stage and it was like he was having like a psychotic episode up there and stuff. He went through different personalities, and he was like sort of it was really like it was
an intense performance.
Yeah, it was like really like you couldn't sort of like you just stood there and like absorbed it all. And then and Mr. Liff, when he went on, it was funny because like at the end of his set he jumped off stage and started like immediately like had the backpack and sort of I watched him clear out an entire backpack worth of like CDs and merch and stuff. It was like one of the first things where I was like, oh man, like
I'm spewing.
That's how you hustle. Like damn. But like Cage, he got off stage and like he stood at the front, and it was like. He was unexpectedly like just meek and like sort of it was like it was almost like you kind of felt like by being excited like you were almost going to like intimidate the dude because he was so like softly spoken and stuff, and it was just like wow.
Hey man.
Well, at that point he got rid of the North Face and the Tims.
What
and
up?
Like all that shit.
My name's Chris.
He didn't even
my name's Chris.
What up, dude?
He didn't seem
Chris
real
Pelko.
slow and stuff.
Fuck the
like
North Face. It's what I got underneath. It's weatherproof. Hey, fuck you, dude. You want to meet Kubrick? hey, my dog will fuck you, dude.
We'll be on our flute shit.
Where do you rate his? Okay, so with League Brothers, Nighthawks, Smut Peddlers, where do you rate? And then also, I suppose the Weathermen, like that they had various releases.
Yeah.
And
So
posse cuts.
they had like that Weatherman thing, that Weatherman shit that I only recently sussed out on Spotify and shit, which is
there was
dope.
a mixtape years ago.
What in terms of rating, like it has to be Waterworld, bro, because like
For you?
yeah, for me,
I'd
and
take
then big like the point again energy. It's like. If I want to like walk somewhere, I want to have mad energy. It's going to be like medicated minutes or that 54 track Josie is hilarious.
Dude, Josie.
One by One, Smart Council, all this shit. All this shit is like has that energy, but then the way that they fucking describe PCP and the dark energy, but also the energy that's there on Waterworld is like some sort of like unmatched shit. But I feel like it's almost a tie because I love them both so much.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I'm getting nitty gritty with it, it's like, all right, Porn Again probably has a couple, it's a longer album with less tracks that I'll go to put on by themselves. Whereas Waterworld is literally back to front, like boom, 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 good, dope Cage versus dope crazy beats. Not that freaking the Porn Again album's not that, but it's like when I think about Waterworld, it's like there's not one track on there that I couldn't go, I'll just show this, you know, if I was showing someone for the first time, I'll just show them this because this is, you don't even need to pick, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like,
definitely. What about you, Duckett? Do you get one in terms of that?
What's that?
Well, with the
Cage collabs.
Cage collabs.
See, I'll be the first to admit I didn't ever
dabble into the
dive into.
Did you support Cage?
No,
No, you just went and
I just went
watched.
and watched. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was awesome. Like it made me like I want to because like Fourth Degree, like Jerry had told me about like Cage a number of times. Like Brent, like the Radiohead track, like Brent went in on the Radiohead beat, like mad little verse. But like there was that Death of Chris Palco and Good Morning were the two that like really like. I mean, Agent Orange was like
It was just crazy, eh?
Yeah,
It was crazy when you heard it.
but like
Of its era too.
I can't really contribute too much when it comes to Cage
No, that's
because
all right.
like I'm more of like I'm absorbing all this, like what can I listen to, like
Yeah.
You can listen to Too Heavy for Wait, that's off Hell's Winter, isn't it? Too Heavy for Cherubs is off Hell's Winter. That shit.
Okay.
He's like doing some crazy shit where it's like he's at the start of the track. It's like he's driving in the car, and then he hits himself. He hits this kid on the street. And then he becomes the 6-year-old kid that he hits. And then his heroin addicted father comes out of the house, picks him up, and he does this whole story track about his dad making him inject this heroin.
Jesus.
But it's just like, it's just hectic. Hectic. But then it reminds me of this. I always group these tracks. I think it's Stargate off Waterworld. He does the same shit where it's like it's crazy. You know when you try to recite Cage bars and there's all these like little misnomers that you can't quite remember? It's like you remember little bits like the nylon cut through my baby ankle. He's like talking about how like his dad would like tie him up. So like, it's fucked up shit.
what's that? What's the one how he's like he abducts his girlfriend or something?
Oh, Subtle Art of the Breakup song where you're not gonna spend your whole birthday in the shower, or is it off Movies for the Blind, where he's talking about suicidal failure? It's Subtle Art of the Breakup
Suicidal
song.
Failure.
Bro,
Holy
that's a
fuck.
banger.
That's a good song.
But
yeah.
it's like I didn't listen to heaps of what he did, but like
Suicidal
from
Failure,
from
holy
that
shit.
song, it was like
There was a 12 of that too.
I was like, man, this guy's like incredible with like
The
storytelling.
storytelling is
Same
next
as like
level.
R.A. Rugged Man with Smith Haven Mall.
Yeah.
I didn't
Oh,
listen.
yeah.
I never got into like heaps of Rugged Man, but like Uncommon Valor and Smith Haven Mall was like
It's the combination. It's the storytelling, the lyricism,
and
it's
the energy in which they give
everything,
it all,
and that's what I've realized. It's like going through the years of like thinking about a different element, and it's like
The Weather Report, that's right. The B-side to that Suicidal Failure had copyright on it. That's right.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
yep.
that was a pretty crazy track too, actually. Fuck.
He even did some shit with Aesop Rock pretty early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the track names, but
Well, they're all kind of linked. That Def Jux.
It was
Def Jux, yeah.
PC.
Aesop was
like,
sleeping on LP's couch and shit.
yeah.
So
yeah.
they were sort of like,
And then Cage winds up on Def Jux anyway, doesn't he?
I mean, this probably isn't the track you're talking about, but Aesop jumped on that posse cut on Hell's Winter, and it's got Yak Balls and everyone on it talking about the fucking back with the Gatling guns and shit.
Too much, eh? I never
New
heard.
York Electric wasn't a that was just Aesop by himself, right?
Yeah, that doesn't have Cage on it.
I love that.
I don't know the shit, eh?
Hell's Winter has some dope joints on it.
Yeah?
Yeah, like I mean, it's different. It's different. Different tempo, different like style of beats. But if you like Cage, there's still some gems on there for you to listen to.
Well, I mean, dude, listen, all this Cage shit, man. We can keep
Cage.
Cage.
We don't want to get stuck in a cage.
I was
Cage
ready.
match.
I was ready for it to be a Cage commercial. Yeah, because like I feel like
Yeah.
like I just like to pay respect to what I feel like is like what made me want to do this
Yeah,
shit. So
yeah.
people can
Yeah,
sort of
yeah, yeah.
understand
Yes.
what I love. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
and maybe even some of the
made a
turns you've
solid
taken
mark on
in life musically and life wise. You know, like
Yeah.
when you're listening, when you're as heavily influenced by that kind of music, you might be making some decisions based on that kind of music, experimenting, fucking boom, 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 like without fail, dude.
100%.
Like, man, like fucking music impacted me growing up, straight up. You would make certain decisions based on what you were living, or based on what you were listening to.
Yeah.
And, trying to translate that into your life, like without fail. And being young and dumb and obviously, but yeah, it's crazy. But like continuing with your journey, dude, like, I mean, you go solo. Or you decide to work solo. It's just like, man, the whole collective, it's too many fucking people to navigate.
well, no, it's more like having to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So it was always like knowing that. I guess to that point, I'd only like really dabbled in. I had like some solo shit released on SoundCloud, and I had the Mesc is in video, which was just me and shit. Like I had that solo on Syntax Junkie's LP. But I mean, I guess it's like it's a given that eventually you're not going to have everybody, like a lot of people to jump on every track you do.
That's it.
So you have to sort of fill it up with your own shit. And I guess it was just like at that point, it was like, didn't have anyone else to record me. So I just started dropping a bunch of stupid shit on SoundCloud. And the best of that shit ended up becoming the methamphetamine project on SoundCloud. So that had like the
Mesc.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Can't even remember the name of my own project.
yeah.
But
Who did the cover?
Grimes.
That's dope.
Grimes,
Dope cover.
yeah. So he that was a dope cover. Yeah.
Yeah, it was sick. It was sick. But the mescamphetamine project, like, let's talk on that.
Literally just like, it came out like a year after, probably a year after any of those tracks had been recorded. And it was a realization that those tracks that were on SoundCloud, I had like the rights to the beat. You know what I mean? Like nobody, they were sort of like mine in a way. I wasn't going to get fucking copyrighted for them. So I realized they should go on Spotify.
Well, what brought you to that realization? That no one had chased you up over them at that point, or
no, not at all. Because I already knew it was like hold on, these have been given to me in a certain, like I've already used them like this. These can go on, distribution services and shit like that.
Was that
and
after Say So?
Yeah, it would have been
Say
way
So.
after. Yeah, so that was on that. That was Nerve. That was the Nerve track on Sober.
That
Say
was
So. If you
a
say
cool
so about the
joint,
cash,
man.
yeah, dude, that was a good joint. I actually listened to that joint this morning.
Yeah. So
Hearing young
Off
fellas
Sober,
go
yeah.
back and like hearing like the younger gen like go back and forth with the, like it's sick. Yeah, younger gen.
The younger gen. Duckets. You're a legend out here, Duckets. Crickets. No, well, we're talking mescamphetamine,
Cigars.
so like with that release, so it's all joints off SoundCloud, and you're like, boom, collate it, put it out there.
I did like a.
You do any hard copies on that?
Nah, there's been so we did the demo in 2016 or whatever, that hard copy, and then it wasn't until I guess Sex Festival that like we did something else, and we still have a bunch of digipacks left for that, but it wasn't until then that we did more hard copies, not even the syntax shit. Just because it was like, didn't even think about it for a long time. I guess it wasn't like let's make a CD. It was more like let's make more music, because it was like it wasn't about selling a like if we were to make something, it would be like make sure that more people listen to it, and you'd be able to speak to someone in real life and I have this. Because if you realize that connection is worth a lot more than anything online, just meeting someone and being like, yo, what up, having a conversation with them, and then being like, oh, by the way, I do music as well. If you want to suss it out, that's going to be more than anything online.
100%.
So it wasn't a long time that we had anything physical.
How much time eclipsed between mescamphetamine and the new joint?
Mescamphetamine. So I did a project.
What's it called? Sex Holiday.
Sex Festival.
Sex Festival.
Yeah, so basically the same
Both
thing,
are good
but
ideas.
So early 2020, I can't remember exactly when 2020, I dropped a project entirely produced by my dad.
Oh shit! Fuck Jesus! Sorry about that. Let's kick the table. Produced by your dad.
Yeah, so my dad did all the
Incredible,
beats.
man. This
Really?
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, it's called Monkey Thunder. It's on Spotify and shit, on SoundCloud, everything like that.
Wow.
My dad does all the choruses and shit, and I'm just like using, current written verses to the things and slightly older verses to just like build a project with my dad, and it was just some different experimental shit. So that's in between mescamphetamine, and then after that is Sex Festival. Yeah, once I started, so that sort of kicked me into gear of like really doing more of my own shit, and so I was like doing some beats, using like these cymatic melody packs and like basically making some cookie cutter shit just so we could spit over it, because at that time I was like, I wanted beats, but I didn't want to fucking really learn how to make beats, so I would just like put drum patterns over like some pre-made melody shit, and then have a beat that was royalty free.
But dude, explain to me before we get there. Explain to me how a project with your dad comes about.
Yeah, so
How the
he's
fuck?
been making music for a long time. He's like in his 60s. He lives in France and shit.
right.
In
Oh,
like
wow.
the
shit.
the south of France, French
Yeah.
Alps. And he was just doing a bunch of music stuff. He sort of paints and does music stuff and does like 3D animation on Blender and all these kinds of weird
Sick.
things. And he was just doing a bunch of that stuff at that time. He has a couple of albums out, just all done by him.
Yeah.
And it basically just, we were sort of, Skyping all the time. He would send me a new beat with maybe like a chorus on it or something, and I'll just send him back the stems that I'd recorded on it. And
No shit.
so we got like a 13 track coming out.
Sounds like some Pink Floyd, like some Pink Floyd hip hop sort of.
Dude, for real. For real.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like
dope.
some more like rock sounds, I guess, but me just still spitting like verses and shit.
Yeah. you get experimental? Like, is it sort of?
Yeah, I guess
would
that
you
sort of
say?
kicked me into being more experimental with my own, like, because the beats are maybe a bit slower and a bit more like rock and rolly. But, it got me into, you know, experimenting a bit more with some melodies and stuff, and then eventually transferring that sort of same idea onto more classical boom bap beats, and then maybe some melodic drill stuff as well.
Yeah.
Just experimenting with the faster tempos, like that 130 with the more space drums is like is
Yeah.
fun to just like write less lyrics, I guess.
Yeah.
Is because it's like, you know, you don't need to fill up the bar as much.
Exactly.
Less is more.
Yeah.
And that's
definitely.
always fun to write something that's completely different to what you sort of like sculpted your whole style around, you know?
Yeah.
But now, like, you know, diving into what really inspired me, it's like, oh, actually, I know what type of music I want to make, you know what I mean? It's not that I haven't made, because like the last album that I made, it's like my favorite. You know, it's like I can listen back and be like, yeah, this is the vibe. You know what I mean? Like, this is how I want to sound. When I listen to Sex Festival, it's a bit dark. Like, doesn't really like, you know, to some people it might be connecting with them at this point in time. But for me, it's really dark. Like, I don't know whether it's the frequencies or the lyrical content or just, you know, when you just have a combination of stuff that you just don't want to listen to. It's like, no, this ain't for me right now. But the new shit.
What was the concept behind Sex Festival?
Oh, bro, it was like I was trying to get Zealot to like come to the studio more on my room and like, you know, drop more of his shit that he had written and like put out a project. So like he started coming over, dropping shit over these random little beats that I've made, and him doing that is sort of, you know, inspired us to sort of, you know, do some other shit. It's like sometimes he doesn't have the full song, but then maybe I fucking make up some random chorus and then I put a verse on it as well, and then we get Spectre. It was literally like a product of trying to make music regularly. You know what I mean? You go, all right, we're just trying to do this more often. All right, there's a track. All right, oh, next week there's a track, and that's it. It's just like a point in time where we were making more music. And that's sort of like the ideal stage you can get to at any point, you know, is like making it a habit and getting like comfortable with making it rather than like, you know, going, oh, you know, it's been a couple of weeks, we should do something. It's more like, you know, it's Wednesday, let's go to the studio.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. You make that habitual. You make that you make that.
Make it a routine, and then it's not work. It's just what you do. And it's what we should be doing anyway. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, MCs, we're not like poets. We don't just write verses for people to read. It's like we say them. We have to like deliver them with our voices.
Yeah, fucking
so,
good point.
You know, if you're just like writing a bunch, yeah, you're going to have dope bars, but you might not have that like, I guess it comes down to like more songwriting, I guess, rather than like writing a dope bar. It's like, yeah, it's a dope bar, but doesn't fit in the song. So as soon as somebody hears it, you know, when you're like, this song's mad, and then the MC says something that's completely out of context to the whole vibe of the song, and it almost like takes away from it as a whole, even though it's only one bar. Yeah. It's sort of like ruins maybe it's like a bit classier a vibe, and then they'll say some shit that's like not classy. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, well, this isn't a classy track anymore because you got that one thing. Yeah, dude. It's like has to be perfect as a whole. Yeah. Sometimes.
See, you have such a fucking analytical mind when it comes to fucking rap music. That's what I like, man. And we're generally surrounded by those people, like, you know, and I take from that fucking brain, dude. Like that brain, like, you know, you are fucking in the car with me, man, spitting every lyric of some songs, and I'm just like, I've never heard this shit in my life. And this shit, like, and I think I'm bugging off your energy at times, you know? It's just like, man, this is fucking nuts. Like, it's sick, dude. Like, yeah, you break shit down into a fucking science. How have you approached songwriting now? Are you developing songwriting beyond just bars?
Yeah, it's a big thing for me.
Fuck, you're still young in it, man. Like, fuck, dude. So I'm thinking, I'm like, Jesus, this guy's got years ahead, years and years, ducats. You know, like, you fucking know the grind, bro. Russ, everyone, we know the grind. Yeah. Yeah, you're a good freestyle MC too. Yeah.
Because like, it's not about like thinking of a verse you've written. It's about like embodying it, you know? So it's like you've already got like fucking, say you say one thing, you've already got like 3 other things you could say instantly when you freestyle. And then when you transfer that style of thought to writing, it's like, all right, so you just said that. You could say there's 10 things that you can think of right now, but only one thing makes sense for the context for what you just said before. Like the thing that fits the best, it's easier to decide when you freestyle all the time because you don't get caught in the trap of saying that thing that sounds sick. It's like that mad multi-scheme that sounds sick, and it could end up in a dope punchline. That's when you end up
with that bar that doesn't fit in the track.
That's when you end up with the bar because you were just trying to flex the writing, and it happens when you like sit there and write a verse because you have that time to go, okay, how am I going to make this hectic?
Break it down.
Where I feel like my songwriting's progressed, where I've broken away from the writing a little bit and let myself deliver a bar as soon as I think about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, all right, record that bar, fresh breath, think about it for a second, record that bar. And then it's like the song builds completely naturally. It builds in the way that it should be building because you're not sitting there going, oh, what is this going to sound like? You're literally saying it straight away. So as soon as something sounds out of place, you just delete that part that you just recorded because it just doesn't work straight away. You're like, oh no, I'm having fun with that. And it could sound cool, but it's almost like, and when it happens because it stops the whole recording because you get to that bar and you've laid it down and maybe you'll be recording with someone else or you'll be recording and it's almost like you can't put anything past that because you're like, oh, I've just killed what I've gotten to. You kill it. And then it's like, all right, you delete that bar and then it's like you open up the floodgates again. You go with something new and it's like, all right, this is, I've got this. And you just move past it rather than like,
wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, bro.
Because it's a live energy. It's an energy thing. And that's what people hear. That's what I've been trying to go back to is it's like, it's what people hear.
Yeah.
It's your voice. And so when you've thought of something to say and then like, a week later, you like read it off your phone at the studio, it's like, all right, what's the point of even writing that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're just going to deliver it like you're reading it off your phone. I mean, some people are pretty dope off the phone, to be honest. Like,
of course.
you know what I'm saying? But it's never going to beat the energy of you being like, oh, I'm going to say this and then instantly saying it because you just, boom, you instantly caught that and captured it rather than like sitting on it for a week and being like, oh yeah, that was how I want it to be said. Because so much of it's like, even though we're like rapping, it's like our voices still have melody and we're still delivering a tone. Of course. So it's like some dudes are just dope. Go like, I don't know, just going hard, monotone, and they just sound dope. But a lot of people, you need to sort of give that flavor and you need to feel like you're being spoken to, even if you've got a lot of energy. So you still need those like real life intentions. You still need to sound like you're sort of asking a question when you end on a superlative. I don't know if that's correct, but
no, you're engaging your audience more. Like, so
that's exactly right. You like to, as a listener, you like to be engaged. Yeah. And, you listen to your favorite MCs and they're hella technical, but they're also putting a lot into the way that their voices come across on the microphone. You know?
They do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, like, like, you were talking just before, like the real talk battles, all that sort of shit. Going into a real talk battle as a freestyle MC, where man, you could probably tear shreds off.
So back then, I wasn't polished with the freestyle shit. So
the written freestyle shit.
Yeah, well,
was it written freestyle when you were doing it?
Yeah, so when I was doing real talk, it was all written a cappella.
Yeah.
And I was sort of into that shit at that time, like the Don't Flop in the UK, and then I didn't really watch a lot of American battles, maybe one league, but mainly the UK shit.
You'd know who you were going up against too, wouldn't you? So you'd have
it wasn't on the day. Yeah, it was you would prepare for a specific opponent.
Yeah.
And I wasn't super into it, and I was probably like doing, even at that point in time, I was like 2016, 2015, I was still fucking doing shit that I shouldn't have been doing. So it's sort of like I wasn't prepared a lot of the time. Maybe the first battle I was like pretty prepared, and then the next two it was like just getting there,
Well, it's a whole different beast. It's like completely different to writing tracks and even freestyling.
Yeah, there's
it's
a
whole
different
game, and you got to do it a few times before you even get your feet.
There's a different meter. It's all about it's even more about projection.
Yeah,
you can have like
100%.
the simplest bars and like the simplest punchlines.
Well, that's sort of I've often thought about that real talk shit, that it was half performance art.
Yeah,
it was kind of how you delivered those bars as much as it was the bar itself.
Yeah,
it was like performance art, man. You had to sort of
you had to control the crowd.
Yeah, dude.
Otherwise you lost pretty much straight
pretty
away.
much, pretty much.
PG steps.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those things.
But was it a skill you could fall back on in that moment?
Not at that time, no, because the freestyle prowess, I guess you could say, has come in the last maybe a year, year and a half or so. Just basically like going on Instagram Live and doing it for an hour at least once a week or so, and that's where that's come from in the past year. And it's just like going hard on that. Yeah, exactly.
Which is fire to tune in on. Tune in if you see him go live.
Yeah,
and I think even the freestyles, like that's helped with my choruses a lot as well, because when you're freestyling, it's like, all right, you could fucking go on these flows and these multis all day, but as soon as you find like a melody within the beat that's fun to ride on, you find this certain like tone of voice that fits in the beat. That's a big thing that has helped me, just recording, because it's like in the freestyle, you're using your voice as an instrument. That's the biggest thing. You can say a lot of the time you're saying the same shit. You're recycling rhymes and shit, trying to do them in a new way, because it's like you're like in your head. It's like everybody who's on there has already heard them, when really like people might not even remember the last time you fucking rhymed metaphor.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. No doubt.
Hate rhyming metaphor. Yeah. And but when you're using your voice as an instrument, it's like you just get better at using your voice as an instrument,
bro.
might. So you're using like, you know, you're not just reciting the rhymes you wrote. You're like, okay, that rhyme that finishes there has to match the inflection and melody that I did with the other one, even though it's not, you're not singing. It's like it's a match because then it makes the rhyme hit harder because you've done the same tones and inflections. Massive.
That's science. That is fucking science. For anyone listening, that is science, isn't it? That's fucking how it is, man. That's what fucking writing a song is, dude. You know, but then you only develop that knowledge of, you know, yourself, your abilities, and then how to convey that or to project that over the course of time.
A couple of years, yeah.
You know,
for
like,
sure.
you know,
and
like,
you got
fuck.
to. I mean, you could just do it like subconsciously as well.
Yeah.
It might take longer.
Yeah.
So when you're someone like me who's like just thinks about this shit exclusively,
it's
just like
yeah.
it just starts to click. And I love doing the deep dives back into what I used to like. You know,
Yeah.
that's a massive thing. It's like you got to do your own history in a way.
Yeah,
Like you got to be like, why did I like this stuff so much? Is it still relevant? Do I like it as much as I did when I first liked it?
Yeah.
Because that's how you grow as an MC. It's like you go, oh, okay, so I really wanted to do this shit, and now I've been looking at this shit and doing this, and it's like you sort of recenter yourself in a way, like you
Dude.
find your direction again, and you're like, all right.
100%. Yeah, I found myself doing it, bro, just with Cage and that. And then, like, you know, we were listening to all that Cage and then League Brothers and stuff like that, and then fucking Tame dies. And I'm like,
crazy.
what the fuck? Like, how bugged out is this? Me and Mesc are in the car listening to this shit. I've had this shit bumping all week. I've even been going back to artifacts. Like, you know, in Leader, I was going back to artifacts and stuff like that. Like, Between a Rock and a Hard Place, man, it's just it's a classic. It's a classic rap record. And just fucking, what, we're talking 93, 94 or something, you know? And then all of a sudden to see what that dude would do, and then to pass just so recently, like, I was just like, oh, man, I was kind of like fucking caught off that, you know? Had me pulling out my 12s, man. I'm just like, I'll post some shit on Instagram, you know? Like, that shit was bugged. And it was Mesc, a credit to Mesc, you know? Because like he's saying, it had me going back going, fuck, what did I like so much about this? Like, I'm hearing it again. I'm like, man, this is fucking, I'm
It's
vibing
like
on this shit again.
It's like, you heard
shit.
it. It's like you're hearing it for the first time again, but as someone who already loves it. So
Yeah.
it's like this, it's like, oh, right, this shit is just as dope as I thought
It
it was when I
was, it
first
is.
heard it when I was
Yeah.
16, but even doper.
Yeah.
Because like you understand it even more, and because it gives you the nostalgia of that certain
Does
time
too.
period, and all these things combined just feel, all right, yeah, this music is
Yeah, dude.
exceptionally dope.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Well, fucking, what are we doing into the future, Mesc? Like, you know, like fucking, I mean, music, filming, you know, like we've got a few projects on the horizon, even just with the podcast itself. Like, you know, your trajectory at the moment, man, what are you feeling? What are you thinking?
So everyone always asks me like plans for the future and shit, and the only thing that I can say these days is just like I want to release more albums.
Yes. Yep.
Because it's like that's all I care about. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and that's the only way you like progress as a musician. Not the only way you progress as a musician, but that's what I come up off. Like I just want more dope albums out,
Yeah,
man. Like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's all I see it as. And I don't want to rush anything, but I want more frequently than I have.
Yeah.
And I want, you know what I mean? Just more collaboration, more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just stuff that I haven't done enough of in the past. Is just like make more shit with more people
Yeah.
for the sake of doing it because, you know,
Yeah.
everyone's dope. You know what I mean?
Do you at all subscribe to, like, when we had Shadow here the other week, you were in on the conversation, you know, and he was talking about how, like, fuck doing an album. I'll do another EP. I can tour an EP. I can knock an EP out quick.
Yeah,
and
but
then
I
I'll
can
come
knock
back
an
and I'll
album
do it.
out quick.
So you don't necessarily subscribe to that theory. You'd sooner do an album. A
Because
greater
I
body of
definitely
work.
understand, like, you know, say, you know,
know?
Syntax Junkie's LP, 22 tracks, when Shadow's like, oh, you don't want one of your favorite songs to be lost within a big project. What I say to that is, like, it's about everyone else's favorite song.
That's right.
It's not about, like,
Yeah.
your favorite song when you drop an album. It's like you drop an album because there's going to be, it's like every track is somebody else's favorite song.
Of course.
That's the
Yeah,
dopest
yeah,
part about
yeah,
dropping an
yeah.
album. And it's like, I guess these days, what's the difference? It's like a length thing, I guess. Oh, okay, EP 6, but it's like doesn't actually have any meaning anymore.
It doesn't.
So it, you know, I guess there's a certain when I look at certain artists in America who are dropping a lot of shit, they do 19 track albums. You know what I'm saying? And it's like the more songs you have on there, the
Yeah.
more chance it is that one of them's going to become a mad popular one with certain people.
Yeah.
The more chance it is you get more plays on more of them.
Yes.
Law of averages, right? So
Yeah.
it's like there's two ways to look at it. Yeah, you could pump out a 6-track EP quicker and do a tour quicker.
Yeah.
But that's you know, looking at it from that perspective of like, okay, do the tour, get the money. I guess I've never I've never been a subscriber to getting the money up. You know what I'm saying? So it's
yeah.
always been about just making mad music. And obviously you can't make mad music unless you like have some kind of funds, but at the same time you actually can to a certain extent, because it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, it's like so much shit in music. I don't know. I just like music about music. Yeah. That's why when I first heard that You Don't Know Shit, I was like, oh yeah, Jake's like a music dude. That's like
rap
me.
about rap.
Yeah. So back in the day, it was like I used to love like flipping a Cage concept, referencing Cage in a bar that nobody could get unless I explained it to them, just because it's such a strange reference. You know, you use a certain thing from there, and then you combine that with yourself, and then it's like you've got some weird bar that doesn't have to be a reference, but you just created a bar, you know what I'm saying? Like I wrote one the other day. I was trying to pen some shit over one of the beats that I bought off you. It's been really hard. I haven't really done it properly, but you know when
it's
you
been
get
really
some,
hard and I haven't really done it properly.
You get some dope production, you're like, oh, I can't actually put anything on this. I make my beats and it's like instantly I know what I want to, because I'm not trying to keep it to a certain standard, because it's like my beat, I'll put whatever I want on there. But the first bar to some shit, because I was listening to Overcast again. And I was like, man, whatever happened to Spawn? And I was like, oh, I used to do this shit all the time. So I wrote a bar that just started a verse off that was like spawned from the atmosphere, gone without a trace. And that's just like a bar that's like, if you just heard it, you just think I'm like talking shit about some shit, right? But really, I'm just referencing how, you know, Spawn did Overcast and then never did anything again, right? So just weird shit like that. That's like rap. You know what I mean? Referencing some shit that nobody has to get. It's just starting you off. Starting you off with a mad bar that sounds interesting.
I feel like in this day and age that the doing the EP thing is very common and very like an easy route to do, but like doing what you do the way you do it, doing the like whatever length, like the longer length works, because like it's not sort of, it's not half of this. Like, I'm not saying that anyone else is specifically falls into this category, but you kind of are all you in your tracks. Like it's like you can listen to one of your tracks like 5 years ago and it's like the same, like you're just as much Gus in that as you are in the new ones and stuff, like in how you approach the track. And I think like on it, like because of that, like you got like a real, from what I've looked and observed, is like you've got like a real niche strong following with yours. Like the people who are like Mesc fans are like, they're
Mesc fans.
They're not going anywhere.
Do they want an
soon.
album?
Yeah. Like the more that you give them of you doing you to the fullest.
But that's what you get over that period. Like, you know, you expand upon you know, like when you do an EP, and this isn't to detract, because I don't necessarily disagree with what Shadow is doing, because it's
correct. It is actually
what
correct.
It is. That's the consumption of music.
In this environment.
That's the consumption of music in the environment we listen in. But in saying that, you've got probably a person attempting six single songs that will each ring, you know, like that each have, you know, an album. You get personality, man. You get a lot more out of a project because you have to give more to the project.
I feel like,
you know,
I feel like 19 tracks on one of yours is 19 singles. Yeah, like it's not like you're putting any filler on there and stuff.
Well, that's at the end of the day.
I guess when he says a single, he means the song. You know,
the song
pops, but like I know what you're saying as well. Like I guess, you know, you should never go, when you release a project, you should never be like, oh, that one song isn't like up to, but that's why you make edits.
The old perspective of single where it's like what's the...
Yeah.
You know, any music I've made, man, I've never thought the single would be the single. Like, seriously. Like, when we did fucking Commercial Hell and shit.
That's why you never decide what other people like before they like it.
Dude, yeah. Like, Deuce and that, man, it was just like, I don't like that fucking song. Why would we make a video for it? Like,
I saw you walk out when Mick turned it on at the fucking...
I'm just like, man, I'm done. Like, you know, like, I don't need to hear it, you know? Like, it's like, you know, and I'm just like, man, but everyone else is like, whoa, that song. And I'm like, really? Like, you know, like, that was my least favorite on the fucking album. You know, like, seriously.
That's how it works. And as I said, you can't decide what other people are going to like before they like it. Like, people are so quick to be like, oh, you know, they do some style and then they think, oh, this certain type of people is going to like it because it's a certain way. When what they don't realize is that the people that they don't think are going to like it are probably going to be the people who like it the most. Because that's how people are, you know. Duckett's talking about like Cage being like a really like approachable, timid dude on stage, in person. It just makes sense because like it's all the duality of the human. You know what I mean? It's like that's how it works. Of course, he's going to be the most like approachable dude because he just let all that crazy shit out on stage to a certain extent. Like that's inside of him, but it's all gone now. You know what I'm saying? Like the duality, right? The duality of man.
Dude, that's fucking crazy.
Duplicitous humans.
Well, you would know, hey, like, you know, like that's what we deal with on a daily basis. That's humankind. That's the fucking nature of humankind. But that's also the nature of the art we create, you know? Like we create art in a duplicitous form in many regards. You know, you put as much of yourself in, but there's also, you know, like, you know, when we had Strut on, that facade, the identity, you know?
Alter ego.
There is an ego there. So there is a duplicity within all of us in terms of how we create art. Even I think the least duplicitous you get an artist is when we sit here and have these conversations, because you largely get the person themselves.
I think
just having that conversation.
Early Mesc was like more playing into the character of like trying to, you know, say you take Mesc is in, like a lot of the track that people know. It's like that's me trying to do like a bar after bar, trying to say the craziest shit. That's all that is. Like, not the craziest shit, but sort of like the, you know, the craziest shit while also being sort of, you know, the way Damo will do a punchline where it's like, why did you say that? It's like sort of crazy, but also sort of stupid, but it ends up being something in between. It's like, so that's what that was. And it was like, very much playing a character, whereas these days it's like directly taken from my own thoughts. Like it's not, Mesc is like not Mesc anymore, basically. Mesc isn't a character at all. It's like the shit that I write these days, I can't rap about anything that isn't really real anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
I can't rap about like, I can't do almost what I want to do to a certain extent, you know, re-listen to The Cage and sort of wanting to be more inspired by it, but realizing that like doing that would be a detriment, you know what I mean? Because it's so opposite of what I actually do that to try and take any kind of or too much inspiration from it in terms of content and shit like that would just be foolish because I'm not really like that. I just really enjoy it, you know, which is I guess where some people sort of it takes time to get to that point where you can discern what you really like from what you should actually be doing. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, some people try to make like party music, but they're like a real like chill person. It's like soon you will realize that you just need to like make more thoughtful music rather than trying to make like club bangers, because it's like you'll fool a lot of people, but like you'll get to the point where it's not, you're not fooling anyone anymore. No. You're like, you know what I mean? You got to make music that is 100% you, because then it's effortless. You know, when you perform, when you do what you do. And I guess that's the authenticity thing in hip hop. It's like, it's not a what you say. It's just like it's an aura. If you're not talking about what you know to talk about, it's instantly obvious. Of course. You know what I mean? So that's just one of those things. It's like, you've got to figure out your own energy. Like what sounds right when other people listen to you and they don't know you and they go, why is this guy talking like that? He doesn't sound like that at all.
I reckon
that's a certain thing.
Your stuff gets misconceived when people first listen to you, I reckon, because it's like, because of how active and all over the place your brain is. Like you're not a person who just is like here like in one spot. Like whenever we hang out and do videos, it's like it's always just like this static.
When are you going to start designing sneakers? That's the fucking next thing, cunt. I reckon, man.
That
brain is.
I've done a bunch of fucking custom shit back in the day. I painted a bunch of different kicks, mainly TNs and shit. But and then obviously right now the custom shit. But
we designed that logo.
Yeah, I've done a lot of logo. I do all my own graphic design shit and. So only a matter of time now.
A lot of crazy ideas and things going around.
Straight up, it's like it's very multifaceted in terms of like it's all the creative inspiration. They all come back and combine into one thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you know, with the shirts and shit, I pretty much just sold out of the batch that I just did with the Dom's wearing, and I'm like, I want to do that type of shit again.
Puts a QR code on his t-shirt. Like, that's clever as shit, bro.
And I'm going to do the same shit, but different. So I'm going to do that shit again. Might put an 8 where the 7 is, replace everything else. Do some similar shit, probably put the QR code in a different spot, but sort of create like a series of it, you know what I'm saying?
The Monty Python of hip-hop, I reckon.
The Monty Python of hip-hop.
Well, that's the thing. I hadn't completed my...
The whole team just
hadn't completed my my Thanos glove of fucking hip-hop skills, so I had to get that last gem of the beats, you know what I mean? And properly, like... feeling like I'm making my own shit rather than using these pre-made melodies and sort of like scraping by, just like getting it there just good enough. It's like, now I want to be, I can fully control everything now. And I've gotten to a stage where it's like, okay, holy shit. Like now now it's my music, now I'm controlling it. Now I have nobody else is touching it and nobody else needs to touch it. But then it's like, once you get to that stage, it's like, oh, everyone else who's like, oh, you should do this. It's like, you're like, yes. Give me all your, tell me everything. Because it's like, you know what I mean? You get to a stage where it's just like, people like will be like, oh, what about this? And you're like, you realize that it's like, you don't have to do what people tell you to do, but you can learn so much from what people tell you to do or what people say about whatever you do. And it's like, at a certain point when I was younger, it was like almost offensive because I was like, this is what I've done. Why are you trying to make it like different? But it's like, no, people only say that shit when they're actually trying to help you. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be like executing their idea exactly how they meant it, because that's not what it's about. But you use their idea and then you use what you know to execute it in the way that you think what they mean, which makes it your idea, if you know what I'm saying. And then you just literally steal from everybody. Like everybody's like, oh, what about this? And you're like, oh yeah, okay. What do you mean? That's sort of a stupid idea, but like you just literally get inspired by the words they use, because they're like, oh, they might mean this, but what if I did something was almost the opposite? It's like you can literally get inspired by someone's idea by doing the opposite of what they said. You'd be like, that's really interesting. What if I did the opposite of that?
He's not from here, man.
Fuck! My brain is ready to fucking explode, and I'm just like, fuck.
TEDx, if you're watching.
Bro, wrapping my head around these concepts, I'm like, fuck, cunt. Like, this kind of on some shit.
I'm into my philosophy shit as well, so I like that idea of like having those thoughts that are like, they just hit. It's almost like a dope bar, but it doesn't have to rhyme. It's like a life. It's a life bar. A life bar within one, you listen to like Epictetus or fucking Marcus Aurelius quotes and shit. You guys never seen like Stoic quotes? Yeah. There's this one that's like the Stoic quotes. It's like this Mad channel, and it's like this guy is like he's like reading his voice like this. He's like, "You don't know shit, you little bitch." Like that's what it feels like. You put it on while you're going to sleep, and he just like for the start, it's like he's talking down to you, but then it's just like eventually like, when you come across hard times, don't cry. Just like say, "This is what I've been training for. This is what and you just listen to this shit.
The fox
and it's
in the
literally
tunic.
written like 2,000 years ago, and you're like, oh, this is like, you think like, I feel like humans, we're like stuck in this stage of like, oh yeah, we're like the smartest we've ever been, when really we've had the same intelligence for the past like 3,000 years.
Agreed,
and it's just, we're just like think that now because we got all this technological stuff, it's actually we're stupider than we've ever been.
Like
because we don't know how to fucking do shit by ourselves. We use all this stuff. Like back in the day, it was like motherfuckers were literally it depends on what we're talking about, but I'm talking about some Greek philosophers, you know what I'm saying? So dudes who are living technically lives
and all that. Pillars
that are not different from our own, apart from the fact that we have fuckloads more distractions. But these dudes were writing like this philosophy for life that just like still hits, still is as relevant as ever. You know what I mean?
Still popping,
almost more relevant
that new
because enough
Beethoven
people
joint?
don't.
That's right.
Think like that,
That's right.
Everyone's like, woe is me. Like everything's so hard. It's like, no, we're literally in control of everything.
Yes.
It's like acceptance, as I said before, which is a massive thing. Like if you just can't accept everything you can't control, then you can't be at peace. You know what I mean?
Acceptance is love, man.
Acceptance is everything, dude. Because it's like we're constantly put in situations where the only thing we can do is accept it. Stoicism's massive on like, say something's taken away from you, something, big, life-changing. It's like at the end of the day, everything dies. You didn't own that thing forever. You should have known that you weren't going to have that thing forever. So it's like that just comes back to like mentally being ready for things that are going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
And just to add on to that and to build on that, and you get that ownership based on the perception that you are this body. Because if you are this body and you're not eternal spirit
you relate
soul,
to this
then
physical.
What do I own? Like that.
Yes.
That's related to me. My ego is invested in this physical form. Like I'm upset when that goes because
Because I owned it. That was mine. It's like we're so lost in the physical, what we can see and touch and smell in the Kali Yuga, the distractions of this age is massive. You know what I mean? So we forget that it's like, oh, okay, hold on. We just need to eat,
Yeah.
and like breathe.
Yeah.
As we were talking about last
Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
And you know, we've got shelter. We're not recording this out in the sun, right? Like these basic human things that we forget because of everything else that we're surrounded by. That's like problems, all this shit. It's like fuck, and we tune into them straight away.
Oh, dude,
we're like, oh shit, this thing happened. Hold on, let me take myself out of this current moment to like read something that gives me bad news. What was that?
We fixate on this shit.
It's like because obviously humans and drama. At one point, we had to be tuned into the
survival
drama.
mechanism,
bro. It all comes back.
Your brain's
to that.
automatically going to latch onto a negative thing
because we need to
build
deal
a
with
defense from it.
we need to deal with it. The saber-tooths are coming, bro, and we need to fucking make some spears to fuck these motherfuckers up. So these days, it's like it redirects to other aspects of our lives.
It's like the artificial technology. It's like artificial. The technology is just about my basis of like what we've created through the senses. I heard this thing that like information changes, but knowledge remains the same. Like knowledge, like what's that which is knowledge now has been knowledge
forever.
Yeah, like the thing, like the reasons why all of those ancient philosophers, all that stuff's still applicable is because like it was based on the knowledge of who we.
But in some ways, has shit like this has it blocked in many regards. Whereas we think we have such a great access to information, these things have largely polluted.
They're absorbing.
And
if you've just got like they absorb all your spare time and like your eyes and your hands, right? It's like back in the day, it's like if you had all the spare time and you could ponder your orb or then like the limitation of having less, like now we think we're like advanced, but it's like we're restricted but not limited.
We've
like
devolved.
We used to be more limited, but through that limitation we could apply like the applied knowledge and like the creativity kicked in with the spare time.
And that's where it comes into the fact that like people want to complain about the age we live in and complain about this shit. It's not like no. You're just got the wrong perspective. You're looking at it wrong. It's like, all right, you could be like, oh, it's the phone, this and that, and it's like all these things, and it's like, yeah, it's true. But at the end of the day, like, fuck you. Because it's like, choose how you see it. It's your choice to choose how you see it every day. In terms of, okay, you got the phone and it's like, yeah, we know the least because we don't choose to like research something, because at any moment we could like Google it and find out that small fact and then say it to somebody and then forget it straight away. Yeah, you could look at it like that and it is true. But you could also like access it all. You could also like make use of it, like I do with this rap shit. You know what I mean? It's like you find meaning in this fucking meaningless thing. You know what I mean? We're fucking, when you think about it, like you look at the big picture, and that's what I always think back to. It's like we're literally like these really, really evolved animals that have these fucking hectic brains, but at the end of the day, like we're still the same as like the monkeys and shit. We just like think we're like real hectic and like look at this shit. It's pretty funny. Like we're recording this conversation and be like, yeah, look at us. But imagine if it was monkeys who were like,
man, I heard
smoke cigarettes.
You know they're saying about that thing about like the monkeys are just like, there's that theory I heard somewhere like on Instagram or something where like monkeys are just it's just like the mushroom theory.
Oh, the stoned ape theory.
Yeah, it's like like why aren't they giving mushrooms to monkeys at the moment? And like,
transform these
like
motherfuckers,
just
we'll
see
make
if we
a
can
new breed.
fast
That would
track.
be a good experiment, wouldn't it?
What's a stoned ape theory?
So the
The
idea
theory
is that like
primates picked up magic mushies and started eating them, and that's how we like developed other like not senses, but our thought patterns increased to a greater capacity, and we evolved
it's
from
the same
that.
with like what, eating cooked meat. That's like the main thing.
The
Is like
fats,
that's how
the
our
fats
brain
from
grew.
meats, because our brains are so like they take in a lot of fat, and that allows you to think more. The theory is that when we started eating a shitload of animals, we got better at hunting and fucking gathering, and then like started to do more things with the social thing,
of
like
course.
building villages and shit. That's the theory anyway.
Crushing sage
It
to
doesn't
make
not
cologne
make
and
sense.
shit.
Doesn't not make sense. I've been fucking. I was telling you about that ancient apocalypse shit, the Graham Hancock on Netflix.
It's good to see him getting some mainstream shine.
Finally.
Yeah, so
Finally, man.
it's like it's dope to see that, because it's like definitely touches on stuff in the Joe Rogan interview and stuff that he's done before with like the carbon dating in Egypt and shit, with like talking about the floods, how the carbon dating from like the the stones on the bottom of the pyramid's like different to the ones on the top, so it's like something's washed through there or whatever. But you know, each episode he just goes into like a different monument around the world, and like there's so many similarities to certain things, like how these big monuments are obviously usually built. You know, I mean, it wasn't obvious, but a lot of them are built around something.
Yeah.
So they're like to build up, say, a natural water source.
Yeah.
Or a lot of them, it all came back to astrology, and like they're pointing, you know, everyone knows about how the pyramids are like fucking, one of them's like perfectly astrological north, and they're like lining up with the stars and shit. That's what they're all doing from around the world. And a lot of them have like pyramids, the ones that are pyramids or the bigger structures, they actually have series of smaller structures that come from 500 years earlier inside them. So they're just built up, and we thought, okay, this is from 3,000 years ago, when actually it's probably the one that's in the middle of it, the smallest one probably comes from like 12,000, you know what I'm saying? So the idea is that humans in prehistory are a lot older than we thought they are, and that some catastrophic event has happened, and there's been small amounts of survivors from a society that's more advanced than what was after. Crazy theory. There's definitely some interesting evidence. It's like he's like one of those dudes. It's like Graham Hancock. Archaeologists hate him because he's a journalist. So it's like all the archaeologists are like, oh, this guy's pseudoscience. But really, like when you think about it, it's like the journalists who are like pure journalists. They're always just going to be like, you know, because you don't have to be called archaeologist or a scientist to like look at facts and connect.
Yeah, they've
facts.
always got some indifference. You know what I mean? Like they're looking at pure facts and just portraying that.
Exactly, that's what it's all about, and that's what science should be. But it seems like there's a lot of with like the archaeology shit. Graham always talks about it. How like there's a lot of
Graham always
talks about the archaeologists being.
He's always throwing shade at those
big archaeology.
But he was discredited by countless journals and papers. Even what was it? Fucking what was the big magazine? National Geographic and all that. Didn't they all they all wrote him off for decades?
Because it's already been decided. That's the thing. But that's not how science works. Like nobody wants to we've already written all these textbooks, so to change it, it's like, well, the kids are we just taught these grade 11s this yesterday. And now we're going to fucking change it. It's like, fuck that. It takes too much. I don't know exactly what it is, but overall it's like dudes have already made their careers off proving something that's now maybe 20 years later. Oh, actually, hold on. You're not 100% correct because there's all this other evidence that says something that's completely different, and everyone's like, no.
It totally comes down to the level of where the state of the people are at, because it's like the science is the observation of the senses, that which we observe through conducting repetitious things, right? So it's like to the level of the, because it's said that, amongst other things, people being taller or whatever, people having much, whether it's whatever you call it, is a much greater brain capacity in the past. Yeah. Like in the Vedas, they call it the different yugas have the Kali Yuga is the lowest capacity of consciousness compared to the other ones. Like people lived longer, they had the ability to recite things off the dome, off the dome.
Off the dome, I know what you're saying.
Always freestyling.
And sort of different things existed in different in different ages and stuff. So it's at the moment, it's interesting hearing this science related stuff, because it's how can people be that adamant about things that are just based on the study of, to err is human. People are imperfect by nature. It's but we're so...
But I was already right, dude. I already done proved this shit.
Imagine if they figured out smoking was bad for you in the last 5 years, and they were just like, nah, we can't. We can't put that info out. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Or milk or wheat.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Food is massive. The misinformation within food is what about fucking fat in the 80s? It was fat is actually the worst one. It's no.
What about
it's still sugar.
What about how they're taking the bitterness out of food? Cauliflower.
They're taking the bitterness out of my beer. Put it back in there, you little bitch.
They took my beer.
Legit though. Like
vegan hops.
cauliflower,
in there, you little bitch.
cauliflower, broccoli, all of that. Like
shit.
they're genetically sweetening that, so there's not as much natural bitterness in it.
Oh,
but,
really?
But as part
Make
of
more
like our
palatable.
digestion, we need that as like an integral part
Because that's
of
like part of what one of the vitamins that's integral for our organs to work probably tastes like that.
Yeah.
Like, just eat your chlorophyll, motherfuckers. It's all good. Like, not every meal has to be like some pleasurable, like, oh, this is the best food ever. Like, oh yeah, a new thing every time. It's like, can't just eat a banana and shut the fuck up. It's like, you don't like, yeah, that's how I think about it. It's like food is like food. We so like, you know, something I like to say, you know, they were, you know, the Colosseums and shit,
Yeah.
like before Rome fell. Them motherfuckers, they would have like the gladiators and stuff, but they would also watch people cooking live.
Yeah.
So think about
They
that.
had
Look at what-
MasterChef back then.
And look
Think about
exactly.
how
Look at the
it's
society we
raw.
currently
Look at the
living
society.
through.
We got UFC,
Yeah.
we got MasterChef, we
Yeah.
got Top Chef,
Yeah.
and everyone's like,
Yeah.
sick.
So before the fall
Yeah,
of
we've
Rome,
changed
I
so
heard,
much, haven't we?
bro, I heard this same thing prior to the fall of Rome. They were idolizing chefs. So chefs, people
what
were
I mean.
cooks and stuff. And look at what we're seeing now.
Yeah.
You know, this idolization of chefs and, you know, master chefs and fucking, you know, it's crazy.
With the nuances of entertainment and all the niches there is, it's like, I guess humans have a personality in them. Humans are like entertaining to other humans. So if you like cooking and you like being entertained, and that's what you're into.
makes
Do you
sense.
think
But
that's
why
that
it's
Lego
dope.
show they have now is just like watching people build megalithic structures back then?
That Lego show's Master Chef with bricks. That's all that
Lego
fucking
show
thing is. That's
it's
all that
the
fucking shit
worst-
show is.
It's the worst game show I've ever seen. 5 minutes.
fucking
of.
My
horrendous.
daughter
The
is 7
worst.
and loves it, but to me it's just Master
That's
Chef
what
with
I mean.
bricks.
But
I
it's
can't
like
fucking
less
sit there
than
and watch it.
MasterChef because it's like there's nothing even like they're not even like doing a hard task.
Oh, they're fucking rubbish.
Ready, steady, cook.
Bro, don't talk
Ready,
shit about
steady,
that.
cook.
That shit's fire.
That
dude.
launched the career of
when
Manu.
when you're on a
I used to see that shit when I
day
came home
off
from work.
school,
Ready,
bro.
steady, cook.
the day off school, that's all you had. That's all you had.
Back
Dude,
in
it
my
was.
day, all we had was ready, steady, cook.
They should bring Gordon Ramsay on for the Lego thing. He's just fucking
What the fuck is this?
I just tear these little cunts to shreds.
Finally, some good fucking buildings.
Oh, cunt. It's fucking Master Chef with bricks. But seriously, how long have we been going? We've already been going for a couple of hours already.
2 hours.
2 hours. Well, we should wrap it up. I mean, dude, we can talk this shit fucking all day. I was going to ask though, Mesc. I mean, you did build somewhat of your rep and some of your music history. Let's put it like this: lies in the live arena. You know, like speaking of the arena or whatever, you were a live MC at a very, at various points in time, probably pre-COVID, I suppose. Now, any inklings or want to go back?
So much want, man. I just don't know anybody. Like, you, at the end of the day, you sort of
The
got.
shows.
If you're not putting the show on yourself, somebody's got to be putting you on.
Put Mesc
and
on for a
nobody's
show.
putting me on, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I got the fucking DM me or email for bookings on my Instagram bio. No cunt's done it. So
Put 'em on.
You know what I mean? Like,
we'll point everyone in your direction.
you know what I mean? Like, I would
Beats
Put
Beats
on
and
our
Beats.
own show.
Yeah, and Beers Beats and Beats
Yeah,
got
let's
things
do
coming
that.
up. We
I
should
would
fucking-
murder a set like to my best of my abilities with this new music, especially. It just feels
Yeah.
so right to perform because that's what I've been cooking it for in a way, you know.
And
not
you're
for-
you're a great performer.
It's just
Yeah,
natural
it's
to
like-
me,
but
bro.
done,
Get on
done
stage.
right though. Like I reckon do a Mesc headline. Like I'd gladly open up.
Yeah, so me and Geordie are actually thinking about going down to Albury and putting on a show in a gig at a pub down there because that's where he's from. Nothing fucking happens down there.
Yeah.
And so we're thinking about like, you
Take
know,
it to 'em.
16th of December
Yeah.
around there, doing a little pop-up, going in. But yeah,
Punch on in the car park?
definitely, bro. Punch on in the car park, a couple shots in the Nissan.
Fucking A.
Nissan.
Down in Albury.
Nissan. But fucking, yeah, shout out to Big Han, shout out to Ozai, shout out to Zella, Big Spectre, as I mentioned, Ducats, Dom, everybody. Thank you for having me. This has been like crazy. Time went like that, eh? It was
Dude,
like,
if it
it's like
goes-
cage. What else?
I got one
Yeah.
question before. Right, like just because it's
This isn't your
it's,
podcast, fuckhead.
it's,
Nah, I'm just
it's,
fucking
it's
with you.
mad. It's
Go on.
something's like I've been curious. Like
I
the,
love your energy, Duckers.
the process of you writing, because you make so much music, right? Like, is it always you write to the beat, or is it like you just write and then you assign it? 'Cause
long time. It's been right anytime I can get verses down and just have them because I sort of wrote in a way that was, you know, pretty much able to fit over any beat. You know, whether I'd have to spit it a bit faster or slow it down and do some awkward pauses or whatever. So for the longest time, it was like I could just pen shit in my, like I would like, you know, think of like a rhyme scheme or whatever and like start penning off that. It didn't matter about the beat. And it was very much like that. And these days it's the opposite.
Right.
It's really hard for me to like sit there with nothing playing and like be like, oh, this is what I'm going to say, because it's so opposite of what I'm trying to do. I'm not just trying to like write something that could like, I'm literally just making songs now. It's like, this is the beat. So this is what I'm going to sound like on it. It's opposite of what I used to be like, where it was like very much based around like, this is the first part that I'm going to rhyme and this is the start of my scheme. It was like, no, I don't give a fuck. That just comes naturally now because I'm listening to the beat and I'm fucking... It's a lot of it is freestyle. It's like even when it's not freestyle, it feels like I'm freestyling because it's like I'll sort of be spitting, cut like pen a bar if it works, and then like find a flow in a way. Like you're not just like sitting there like rattling off multis. You're like saying shit.
Yeah.
Right, what is this gonna sound like? What's this pocket like? Just testing shit out. And I guess that's a freedom where it's like, you know, you're not just sitting there like.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're just saying the shit. You're just saying, oh, how does this sound in my voice? You're saying it. The same shit I was saying before, using the voice as an instrument.
It's a skill, though, I think, man. It's a skill.
You just got used
like
to
be
get
able
used
to
to
just
it.
fucking
Just get used to it.
Just to flip it like that.
If you write shit, it's just it's like a little bit more of a step. We're being like, okay, I don't give a fuck what I'm going to say when the first time I say it. That's the biggest thing, is not actually caring what you're going to say. Because if you care what you're going to say, you're always going to almost miss the next thing. It's like we're about like, oh, I could say these three things, but I'm pick. It feels like I'm in slow mo when I freestyle these days. So, like if the beat's like, if it's like 83, bro, I'll be like saying the first thing and then like picking out the next punchline in a way.
Yeah.
Like, not punchline, but like picking out the next end bar just because it feels like I got that much time. And, you know, when I rock on something a bit quicker, I give it more space, and then it's just like, it's easier as well because it's like you're spacing the multis and then you're just placing them in on that hit or whatever. But yeah, I just love freestyling.
That's some straight rap shit right there, right? That's that rap science, man. Like, and if you write raps, you get what he's saying. You know, like if you've written raps in your life and you've performed them, you've recorded them, then you know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. And if you attempt to freestyle, like, man, we used to fucking, years ago, we'd stand around drinking, like Friday nights, just dropping 12s, freestyling over the top of them. Today, I couldn't freestyle to fucking save my life. But back then...
Let's get a freestyle cipher going sometime soon.
One day. I've been
Sounds
no
like
rush.
Jake getting on my album. Yeah, one day.
Dude, I'm trying to write. I'm trying to fucking get that pen moving again.
The best way to do
but
that
sometimes
is to
it's freestyling. And like going back and listening to fucking those joints in the car and rapping along to them. And all of a sudden, man, I've got some lines coming to me. And it's like, oh
that's what it's
shit,
about.
I'm fucking, all of a sudden I'm pulling things out again. It's just like, what?
It's
Like,
just, it never leaves you.
it doesn't leave. It doesn't go. Nah, 100%.
Life
Bro,
comes
listen,
from
man, I
life.
can't thank you enough for everything you're doing here. You end on, like, you know, the fucking energy you're bringing to this show and the podcast. Duckets. It's always.
Oh,
always.
man, thanks for having
you
me
already
along.
know what it is. Russ, you know how we do. We do this every week, in and out. Listen, fuck, this has been Beers, Beats, and the Biz for another week, I suppose.
Shaking
Eh?
on video.
That's it, man.
Shook
That's
on
it.
the video,
This is how we
right?
do it.
Yeah.
It's hip hop all
That's what
day,
all the hard
baby.
cunts do.
Panpipes.
Bro, I go hard on these.
Not quite.
Close.
Listen, that's been Beers, Beats, and the Biz for another week. Mesc, Duckets, Insidious. I'm Jake Beers. Dom on the cameras. Man, we're out of here, baby.